Tagad ieslēdz. Hello, hello, hello. You have a presentation, right?
Otrais ir ieslēgts. Ir skaņa, ir šeit. Nu, otrais strādā. Labi, diezgan loģiski.
Okay. Do you want to open up? You want to say something after lunch break, or should I? No, as you like. Yes, of course. Hello, hello. So I can't move, yeah? I have to stay here, exactly like this.
But I think there is nothing to introduce. Manuel,
No, I can. Yeah, I can do that myself.
and say why you are here, because the pitching is the most important thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that means we can go ahead. Everybody ready online in the other rooms here? Good. So I'm the one fighting against your afternoon fatigue now after a nice little lunch break. And I hope that all of you brought coffee, Coke, and whatever else you want to have in order to stay awake. My name is Manuel Seufert. I'm going to introduce myself in a second. I have the pleasure of working with the whole team here of the Latvian Technology Center in the project called STARRISE. And I'm going to introduce myself in a second. Now, on the session we're going to have in the next 2 hours here in those rooms and also virtually, it's all about pitching. And as you can see, labeled that pitch perfect. I'm standing a bit in the way for you, right? So if I go even more this way. So pitch perfect as a hopefully some ignition of sparks for all of you to work on your pitch presentations, not only for tomorrow, but hopefully also for the next weeks, months, years. I will also show why I am talking about pitching and where I get my experience from. In order to keep you interested and awake, just a quick overview of what we're going to cover. So we're going to start with some of the kind of setting the scene, a bit of objectives. And then, as you can see, we dive through various parts from knowing your audience, whom are you pitching to, and then what are enabling factors, what is the surrounding you need to ensure in order to make your pitch a potential success. And then we dive into oral presentation, written presentations, and of course do have time for a wrap-up. There's going to be examples in there, there's going to be tips and tricks in there. I try to make it a little bit interactive to keep you guys from not falling asleep. And also from my perspective, one organizational aspect is if you got any questions, so I'm not reading Discord, anyone who's joining online, sorry, I'm not reading Discord while standing here, but we have other skilled people who do that. If you got questions, feel free to raise your hands or interrupt me. I'm not taking it personally, but I would rather want to go and discuss questions as soon as they arise. Yeah? So no need to wait until 4:30 in the afternoon before we start having a question. Quick fact about me, said Manuel Seufert is my name. Here on the left you see a couple of the focus areas that I deal with, that I usually, work on or contribute to projects. And on the right, you can see a bit of my background and why I am talking to you. On the very top is my current position. I'm director with the company Carney Improve, where Carney is an international management consulting company, and Improve is, if you like, the innovation specialist team within Carney. And we work with the LTC on public projects. We also work in the private sector. And I've done a couple of things before. So more than 4 years I've been with RTL Disney as a corporate responsible for digital business models and the venture arm. And before that, head of business development in a startup. So I helped a startup growing from 4 people to 34 and becoming market leader in 2 years. And even before, after my studies, I started at another consultancy. Simon Kuchen was a consultant for 2 years. And then, why am I talking about pitches? So what I currently do, if I start on the top right, what I'm currently doing is whenever it is in the public sector, I tend to work also as a coach, as a mentor for companies that want to grow, that want to scale up, that want to basically earn more money and internationalize sometimes, or just find optimization ways for their business. I also started my own company as a side business while doing that, and also sold my shares again, because there's no time to work a side business if you're a consultant. And I've done that before. So when I was at the RTL Disney company, I also started a company which was actually on business plan support. So I supported other startups and companies doing better business plans, because one of my key tasks at RTL was to review business plans from venture candidates that we would want to invest in. And I supported companies on kind of developing pitches and business plans. And for the Price24 company, or in between Price24 and RTL, I had a little entrepreneur in residence action with an investor where I was the one creating a business plan and a little startup. So yeah, that's why I'm talking about pitches, because I've seen both ways. I've been pitching to others for the Price24. It was sold to the second largest media company in Germany. It was acquired by them after a couple of years. So I helped prepare those pitches from a startup perspective. And I reviewed a couple of them to be better for potential investor pitches. And then I was the one reviewing them as well. I hope that helps to bring one or the other example and make it worthwhile to sit here or to participate today. It seems to no longer work, guys. Maybe you clicked somewhere else, but I can't. Well, the battery is empty, but it's not switching anymore. No, it is. Okay. And all good. All good. Now, the objectives on what is this session, what is the Pitch Perfect session giving you? Threefold. First, I want to support you in gaining even more confidence than you already have in your skills of delivering pitches. Then, on the structure, I want to provide you with a structured approach on how to create pitches that can create great impact. And first of foremost, obviously, want to encourage you to practice, not necessarily only now in these 2 hours, but rather today, tomorrow, for tomorrow evening to have something nice and catchy to say. Not necessarily ending up in dozens of pages of a PowerPoint presentation. It can also be verbally done very nicely. But maybe it helps in 2 months from now, or ideally 3 years from now. I don't know. Yeah. So getting practice and learning from peers, from experts. I'm not the only one in the room who potentially created a pitch. So I'm the one who has the honor to speak to you about it. But I think there are many more who could contribute as well. Know your audience. So I'm not asking you to jump around to fight your after lunch down, but I would be curious to hear about you. How would you prepare to know your audience? Is that something that you do prepare for? Do you prepare differently for a session like today compared to a session that you might have a couple of weeks from now? Knowing your audience, does it ring a bell for you? What do you think about when you hear that? Cool? Yes? No, I agree. It's super important. Yeah.
Short one, but yeah, basically, then you can structure your pitch and your presentation to the audience needs and interests. You will not explain them what they don't.
As if you would have read my next slide, but yeah. So I took a couple of examples of potential attendees to your pitch. Now, this is obviously looking very much at a startup background, right? So potential attendees for a pitch are investors, VCs, angels, etc. And they have different interests. Exactly. Yeah, you need to know what's the interest of the ones that I'm talking to. It might even be that they are not financial investors or in any kind of investors, that you talk to the public hand and you want to sell something and to get not a financing, but you just want to get a green light to be allowed to run another taxi business in a country or whatever. So please know your audience, because if you, I understand it's not working on the screen. The different aspects that those selected stakeholder examples here are looking for can be divided into the different stages that a company or an offering, a value proposition, a product, service are going through, starting from the seed phase, where you obviously have a lot of risk, and then towards the exit phase, you become more and more expensive to invest in for potential investors if you're pitching to investors. So know what they are looking at, know about their interest, and at what point in time you need to talk to whom. It goes even further than that. Let's assume you are established, everything done, etc., and you're not looking at a financial investor, but you're more looking at a strategic partner. Right? Then this strategic partner has a different mindset than those here. Therefore, see them as a selection, as an example. Underlining what we just heard, it's important to know your audience. They might differ in their interest, and therefore your message might differ in the pitch. Following the example of the investors, because it's probably one of the major stakeholder groups that a startup, that a young company would want to pitch to. They are, according to my experience and belief, interested in three major things. One is the idea. So you have to have a convincing model behind your idea. You have to have a clear summary for them. Then they are looking at the market. Is there enough potential in your idea, in your background, like in the story that you're telling? And first and foremost, they are investing in teams. So first time that I'm jumping out of the slide into a couple of examples that I can provide. When I helped building up this company, Price24. It was an online comparison of prices for mobile phone contracts, internet contracts, all that kind of a price comparison website. Yeah. And talking to guys that are active in the startup ecosystem. So I'm from Germany, and we have a couple of, I think for Germany, huge, but internationally like moderate-sized VCs and incubators coming up. And one of these guys, he founded Rocket Internet in Berlin, and this gentleman happened to study at the same university with his two brothers. He started Germany's biggest incubator. And he asked me why I wouldn't join his company to build startups. I was like, yeah, look, there was in between my master's and my bachelor's and master's. I was like, look, Ollie, I'm about to do my master's. Like, what for? Yeah, like, look, first time bachelor came up at that time. I'm a little older than you would have guessed, yeah. So first time bachelor came up. I was like, look, I want to complete my master's, then I go and work. I was like, you don't need that. Come to me, let's work. Yeah, but I don't even have an idea. I don't care. I like you. You seem like a smart guy. Come work for me. We do something. So they invest in teams. And I've had that different, same outcome, different situation, talking to other investors when I was working for RTL as a potential investor, and talking to other investors, and you ask them, hey, what do you look at when you look at a pitch? Yeah, the team. Okay, cool, fair. What do you look at after you had a look at the team? The team. Okay, get it. So they are interested in the people. They are interested in what they bring to the table. And then there's a couple of examples on the right, a couple of quotes where I haven't met all these people personally, so it might be that some of these quotes are the result of research. Yeah? But actually some nice things that you say, okay, for the executive summary, for the idea, you have to be able to summarize it very simple. And there are other sayings that you have to make it stupid, simple. You have to be able to convince kindergarten children or school children from this idea. Shoot for the moon. Yeah, they need to see some ambition. If you tell a financial investor that you're looking for something that is going to earn $500,000 in 5 years, they stop listening to you. If you tell them about $1 billion, they get curious. You might end up with less than $1 billion, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, so venture capitalists only hate surprises. I think that is something that you could say also for other people. I invest in management, not ideas, is the one quote that I think is really what I experience, where always I hear team, I hear people, I hear team, I hear people, and they never stop to tell that. They never grow tired. And then last but not least, a piece of work that is not formally in a good shape cannot be any good content. So also make sure that when you create a pitch, double read all aspects and all slides and all words and align everything, etc., etc. Enabling factors. Before I jump into it, another chance for you to participate. What comes to your mind when you think about what are enabling factors in a pitch that you should be aware of? None needed. Okay. Or you're starting to get tired. Guys, I'm starting to do some sports with you if that continues. Let me phrase it that way. It's everything around that you need to work or to be working in order for you to perform. Yeah? That can be something like, for online pitches, a secure internet connection. There's enough light in the room. You have a good audio. Yeah? Maybe without the microphone, none of the Discord guys and girls would be able to follow. If it's too dark, maybe you see the slides, but you don't see me. Well, can question if that is something good or bad, but you don't see me. General factors that work for online and offline, like have your documents up and ready, your equipment charged, ensure that you can tailor your message to the audience you're talking to, and everybody can see and mean what you present. Therefore, I'm trying to make sure that everybody sees from all angles what I'm presenting, and then leave some buffer for extensive meetings. Right, so. If I'm giving a pitch or this pitching session here, and it says on the agenda it's from 3 to 5, don't book something at 2 minutes past 5 because we might run late. I talk a lot, so I might run late. And then if you do it in person, obviously know the room, prepare enough seats, allow for options to take notes, and think about prototypes, etc., that you might need. I wrote the call out there, prepare as if you were Steve Jobs presenting the iPhone the first time. So some of the faces in the room might not remember that time, but I'm the one old enough to know that time. He was getting on stage and no one noticed at that time, but it was published later. He had multiple iPhones with him because he was too afraid that switching the screen would not work. Right? So he did not actually only swipe and show the next window, but he changed the phone. He trained like a magician to make this that people would not notice. And he thinks 6 or 7 iPhones he used during that presentation, all with the ready-made screen, because that was what he was able to show or was interested to showing. So if you do live demos, if you have a value proposition that is something that you can show as a hardware, make sure it works. Live demos are a risky option. It's super cool if you have convincing value propositions and you want to convince people and everything works. It's super fancy. Everybody loves it. But it's also a high risk of not working. And then a couple of additional aspects to ensure that when you present something, you have everything in order and you can really convince people. And now let me, because I have to refer to some of them without knowing every word by heart. So like left side content, know your slides, know the analysis, know the details you present, the numbers, etc. Have a logical way and try to make it somewhat visually appealing. So if you present tables that are in font size 4.5, probably not even the second row or first row can read it. Yet alone I can't. But make it appealing. And then on the presentation, ensure that there is a screen, that there is light, that there is all the technique that you need. Prepare for language issues or for even a hostile audience. It can be that you are all experts in pitches and you start laughing at me. Because like, what do I know? You're doing this like all your life for the past 10 years on a weekly basis. Then you better tell me. So be prepared. Also then with interruptions, agenda misalignment, stress, etc. So be prepared yourself and make sure that everybody can enjoy something that is prepared from a surrounding factor perspective. So I have the pleasure now, I have been here before. I know the room, I know there's enough light, I know that we have a big screen, I know that we have a capable team here setting everything up, so super cool, I can rely on everything. I arrived here, I basically do need to bring nothing. It's all done. But if you go somewhere and you pitch, well, you might bring your own laptop. Is it working with the tech on site? Is it not? Yeah? If you're doing that on a big stage in an event, maybe there should be a dry run, something like this. Sufficient preparation and well-being of body and mind is something that is probably helping. And yeah, prepare, rehearse, keep your mind and body healthy. Sounds almost philosophical, and I don't want to dive into lifestyle and choices to live your life at that point in time. But for a pitch, make sure that you're not completely hungover, for example, or that you are prepared and you maybe did even a rehearsal. And here, fun fact: I said I'm a consultant, so what we do is pitching our offerings to clients. We want to win projects with that, and we do rehearsals ourselves. And there are senior partners who do that for 30 years, and they join a rehearsal. And they participate and they present their 2 slides to the group of consultants internally as if it was the client already in the room. So after 30 years, they still do it. It helps. You find a little flaw or someone has an idea or whatever. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, Carsten, if you say that, would you also want to mention this? Can be yes, can be no, but you do a rehearsal, you've done it once, next morning in front of the client, super smooth. And then there tend to be people that are a bit more self-critical. And then don't be too negative. Believe in what you can, believe in the skills you have, believe in yourself. Again, I'm not trying to be a life coach here. I'm just pointing out that this is also one of the enabling factors, and you need to be able to stand up and talk and convince people. And last but not least, this is kind of the things you would want to have in order to maybe overcome the stress, etc. Three ways to get there if you have not done it too much, if you need some encouraging push to further work on the nervousness or the pressure you have in those situations. Prepare, rehearse, and mind and body as a repetition here. Now, we are already in the middle of it. Sorry. We are already in the middle of it. Obviously, I'm giving an oral presentation here. I'm talking to you. It's not only something to read. What do you consider important concerning the oral part of a presentation, of a pitch? Super important, yeah. Also on a technical perspective, right? If I start diving into super hardcore IT coding expressions, and I might miss some. On the other way around, if it's we talked about physics earlier, if it's a physics forum and everybody is super down and deep into physics, and I'm then starting with something like, know your audience and please be prepared, it might be too high level, like too general for them, and they get bored. So a common language, not only in terms of English, Spanish, whatever, but also on a technical term. Yeah, other important aspects. Sorry, to understand about what you were talking about. Absolutely. Use precise words. Yeah. I try, but articulation super important. Yeah.
Depending on the culture, I know my dad worked for a Japanese company for many years, and it was very important for Japanese company chairmen and whatnot when they traveled the world and they're running global multi-billion-dollar business. They were very respectful of the cultures of the businesses that they approached. So like when they were in the U.S. or South America, wherever they're at, they would walk around with a notepad and would write down specific cultural items so that when they communicated with their potential buyers or whatever they're going to do business with to land certain business, they were trying to be aware of whatever cultures that they're approaching. So that was important, at least for the Japanese culture, business culture.
I agree.
Like, being in South Florida, you got to be mindful of the Latin American cultures, and it really helps accelerate your relationships and business if you can embed yourself in just knowing a little bit about their cultural nuance.
Absolutely.
Cultural knowledge is important.
So I think there were two very, very important things: culture and the respect and the adaptation or the inclusion of that, right? So in Japan maybe, or in maybe some more Asian countries, you would bow, for example, in the beginning. I would not only stand here and say hello, but I would bow. In very hierarchical cultures, you would address the senior people in the room separately and then say everybody, but you would have maybe the CEO first or the chairman first, something like this. So yeah. And that goes down into business contact, right? That it might be before the pitch that I'm handing over my business card, where, hey, today we just show a QR code or whatever. In Japan, I would hand my business card with credit card, not nice one. My business card with two hands to show the respect that and to receive theirs with two hands. Right? So these kind of little aspects to include for cultural aspects, and even within a culture, it helps to be super aware, and that is the second thing. Yeah, the second thing is to take those notes and to be aware, which also outside pitches helps you to, for example, sell. If you have recurring business contacts to someone, take notes, know what they were talking about last time. My grandfather used to be a salesman driving around Germany. Maybe that's 60 years ago. Yeah? But he always took notes of the small talk he did with his business contacts. And then next time he was able to ask, by the way, how was your daughter doing? I think she had her first day in school last time we talked. How was it? People are super surprised that, you remember. And that forms a bond. and that is cultural respect on one side, and then being aware and being mindful of things you talk about and is that are important to other people. If you know something like this about your attendees in a pitch, well, if I'm pitching something that is good for kids, and I know that 3 out of my 4 potential investors in the room have kids in school, you can say, by the way, for you, and if I think about a 12-year-old, like your kid in school, maybe, and then you start. It's a completely different atmosphere and contact you can establish in space.
And that is what Manuel showed to you. Thank you very much.
But I think meeting the deadlines is also what we heard from Alex earlier today, right? So you want to work with people where you can rely on those people. And yeah, I'm not sure if that was now able for Discord users to catch everything, but Ins had great examples from pitching situations where you have to hand in documents before. Else, you better know how to present a pitch on an oral presentation super smooth, so that you can convince people without having anything as slide deck. Yeah? So what is oral presentation including? It's including a lot of things. First, confidence, enthusiasm, and conviction are, I would say, characteristics that help if you have to deliver a pitch, if you have to deliver an oral presentation. So believe in your abilities, be excited, and believe in the content you're presenting. If you are pitching, let's assume that you're not pitching to someone who's sitting there with day one on the job. So the person you're pitching to probably has heard a couple of pitches before. So he or she might be somewhat more knowledgeable of the situation than you are, so they can grasp a good team, they can understand a convincing pitch, they are convincible, yet they have some good practices in mind, yeah? So they know what they're looking for. Now it has to be you who's convincing them. And a great pitch consists of not only a sound document, we will get to that written part later, but also then of a convincing presentation. And the presentation focus, the three V's, and the presentation phases are three aspects that I would like to dive deeper in this part. First, if you go, and I hope that works with the tone, but I'm going to take it in my hand again. So if you consider a presentation, an oral presentation, it starts with the objective. Let me compare that only to this session here. Not talking about that I'm amazing in creating pitches, but only this session here. I started with giving you a couple of objectives that I would want to achieve. Yeah? So what you want your audience to know, to say, to do, I tried to elaborate what we're going to cover and what is the objective of this session. Second, analyze the individuals. I hope I know what's in here for you today. All good. We do that as a how is this sport called, where you always hand over this little stick and then someone else continues running? We do that. It's a sorry? Relay race. Yeah. So individual sprints, right? We do all the sprints. We iterate a lot. We are super agile here. And then do an analysis of the group. Are there different goals in the room? I hope that for a pitch session we could align on having the same goal in mind. We all want to get a couple of those skills further improved. And then what's the presentation focus? So knowing the audience, and I know you all have different backgrounds, but for the pitch, I would assume we're all somewhat similar in our objectives and interests. Then the presentation has a couple of summary or a summary of a couple of key points, then structured points into frameworks, and has a so what. That is in general. The key points is something that I want you to remember. You will see at the end of the presentation, I'm going to repeat my agenda slide for you to remember, oh, there were objectives, there were enabling factors, there was the oral presentation part and the written presentation part. You don't have to remember every slide I prepare. I'm a consultant, I'm doing too many slides and too many words anyway. But if you remember some key points, that's cool, and that helps also in your pitch. Structure the points into frameworks. I'm always presenting you 3 parts here or 4 aspects there. So I try to make it in a structured form so that it's, even if it's unconscious, easier to grasp for the German, for the human mind. And focus on a so what. So I presented the objectives at the beginning. Why are you sitting here? Yeah? Why would you listen to me for 2 hours or participate? I try to make it a bit more interactive than just talking for 2 hours. Now, the 3 V's, second part of the oral presentation one. Verbal, what are the words you use? Visual, how to use your body language. And vocal, how you sound when you deliver the presentation. If I'm standing here like this for 2 hours straight, talking to you like this, I would guess it takes about 10 minutes before you either stop listening or you just straight away fall asleep. So I tend to loosen it up a bit. I'm using my hands, even though I'm not gesticulating like a clown, but I'm trying to make it a bit interactive. In terms of, I can move my head, I have eye contact, I can look at you, I can listen to what you say and repeat, like get back to you on those details and discuss with you. I try to look at everybody's face from time to time, so to get you involved. Right? That's all the body language. That's the presentation style. That is different for everybody. That's okay. Some people tend to walk kilometers when they present, but then you can't see the screen, so I'm forcing myself to stand. I try to have a little melody in my voice. Earlier in the coffee chat, we talked about languages, and we said, hey, the Italian language is known for being so melodic and so almost music-like. Well, it's not music when I talk, I know, but still I try to have a little pronunciation and a little bit of a melody and not having it too straight and too boring. And then, yeah, which words do I use? As I said earlier, we want to make it simple. We want to have it on a basis that you could theoretically explain it to a school kid. Now, you're a bit older than that, you're a bit smarter than maybe someone can cognitively be when he or she is 4 or 5 or 7. But still, I don't have to impress you with any scientific words. I can use simple words to get across what I want to say. Speak the same language, right? So English is not my native tongue. I would assume that I'm speaking enough English to get across the message that I can pass this class, but still I want to use words that I'm capable of and that everybody can understand. As one example for the verbal part, you see another structure element here, right? Back to Steve Jobs, about 10 words per sentence, 10 and a half. I sometimes tend to do that way longer. Should work on that. Percentage of difficult words, less than 3%. So all the sophisticated stuff you can use in the English language, you're trying to reduce that. All the tech language he could include, trying to reduce that. So I want everybody to be able to follow. If you've never done a pitch in your life, I still want you to understand what I'm talking about. And he wants to know people what an iPhone is, even though they have no idea about technology at all. And then a couple of sentences, probably something that is rather than for a documentation afterwards, right? We have a recording, we have potentially the slide deck later. I'm not going to read out every example sentence here. But if you want to provide an explanation of the goal or provide some structure, then you can talk about my objective today is, or my presentation is divided into X parts. I showed you the agenda slide at the beginning to make it even more obvious. Right? So trying to provide that structure, give a starting point, have clear summaries, use your sentences in a way that it flows with the content you're presenting. Visual, body language. Right? So posture, movement, gestures, eye contact, facial expression. I covered that in the very rough overview because I can't hold back and I talk a lot, I know. And then maybe one difference that I want to point out here is the difference between in-person and then purely online events. And then here today we have a hybrid, so it's a bit of a mix. But if you sit in front of your laptops and you have an online presentation, or you have an online training and you listen for 3-4 hours straight to someone, if this person is only sitting there, and it can be very melodic in its language, super nice, but if there's like no movement at all, it gets a little creepy after a while. So if this person starts running around in the room, doesn't help either, because then you don't see that person anymore. So when we do trainings, and yes, also consultants do a lot of trainings. I remember the last trainings I had, and they were even on presentation. You do things like screaming in a room full of consultants and you realize how loud or not loud screaming is. And then you do expressions and you gesticulate like extremely too much. Yeah? But you get a feeling of, does it help if I only move my hands? Maybe that's a way of moving if I'm sitting in front of my laptop because it's only that big. And if I move like this, they don't see my hands anymore. But if I want to say, hey, something is enormous, then it's this. And if I say, hey, I'm talking about an enormous amount of to-dos in front of you, I can use all my arms spread. That's okay, you still see me. And the other ones online even so because there's a good camera here. But so that's super important and it makes it all even more interactive, even more entertaining in a positive way. And it's important to use these aspects of oral presentation to underline your pitch, to underline the story you want to tell, to bring across the content you want to bring across, and to engage the audience to not fall asleep even though the pizza was good and maybe you did not bring that cup of coffee that you thought about. You did. So volume, rhythm, tempo, like all aspects that we briefly covered, right? So what really makes your voice differ and not too monotone, but a little bit engaging. And have I said that it helps if you're enthusiastic about it, if you know what you're talking about, if you're into it, it helps. Because then these things typically come a bit more natural and I don't have to train myself to be super entertaining. Third part, the presentation phases. Yeah, so you have different phases of the presentation. It starts with a little opening. There typically most of the audience is aware of what you're talking about and they follow and they are interested. And at the very end, when it's close to, hey guys, there's a coffee break in 5 minutes, everybody's, oh yeah, super cool. And the eyes are up. But somewhere in the middle, it might be that audience loses touch. And you see people sitting on their laptops, on their mobiles, or they straight away just close their eyes, right? So that happens. Now you have to deal with that. And you can play with that a little bit. But just be aware that this can happen. So try to be on point. Try to not make it too boring and too extensive on what you're talking about, especially me. And then still use all the other things. Make eye contact. Engage people by also just looking at them and saying like, hey, I see you. I see that you're listening to me. I'm talking to you when I talk about this topic. I want to get to you and convince you. You can do other stuff to capture the audience, right? You can tell stories or have a contrast in what you say, kind of polarize a little bit, say something controversial, not offensive, but to be discussed then. Have puzzles, questions, and something to simplify people's ability to follow is this list of 3. So here are 4 points on the slide, I know. But before I presented the presentation focus, the 3 V's, and the phases. 3. So that happens a lot especially in consulting stuff. It's always 3 or 5. That's kind of the rule, right? So to have it very simple, 3 things is something that you can typically remember. If we talk about pitches and we leave out the objectives and we leave out the Q&A, it's more or less the enabling factors, the oral presentation, the written presentation. It's 3. If I go for grocery shopping, I don't need to write down 3 things. When we're getting to 5, I need to write it down. And then capturing the audience and the attention level, ask a series of questions. Pause. Not pose, not the first one, but the second one. Something that is absolutely fun to train if you're standing in front of an audience and you stop talking for about 10 seconds. That's not even 10. But it gets uncomfortable. Yeah? And people realize, and they're, okay, I've been like writing these super important emails and I have a day job. I can't listen to Manuel all day. He didn't say a couple of words in the last second. What's up? So that works. That works. But it's uncomfortable also for the one being in front. Yeah? If I don't talk for 10 seconds straight, it's getting a little uncomfortable. And that's okay, because it should be uncomfortable for you as well, and then I can get back. do some live quizzes or prepare slides for handouts so that people can at least interact with the topic if they don't listen to you anymore. Form breakout groups, include props. So this is, for example, something that I would usually do. Now, 2 hours is a super tight window. So I said, like, okay, I'm going to engage you because I ask questions and I ask you, how do you think you prepare for the audience or for oral pitches, etc. But usually what I do when I give longer workshops or trainings or boot camps or whatever, we divide into groups and we start working as we did earlier today, right? So that's what you do to keep people engaged. And then there's another part that is more than for the closing of a presentation phase, right? We had intro, we had this valley in between where we want to keep people engaged. And then the closing, you do a quick recap, you repeat the core message. So what was this all about? You have a call for action. Maybe you have a cool quote of someone that fits into the story. And you can ask rhetorical questions. I mean, obviously, if there are real questions at the very end, super cool. But if I want to ask something rhetorical, to try to loosen the group a bit more or to get a nice smile at the end of the presentation by the audience, etc. So that is something that you can do as well. Written presentation. I continued my stuff as long as I don't hear questions, right? So if you guys have questions, you need to interrupt me. Sorry? There is time in the end, but I said, you were a little late with your coffee, so you have maybe missed. I said in the beginning, it's absolutely fine to be interrupted. I don't take it personally. What I do is, instead of sending you to breakout groups, allowing for these questions here to find a little place and time. So what do you perceive to be important for the written presentation? We had 3 presentations earlier today, all a little different in their style. So it might be my job illness, then I look at some of the details of the presentations, obviously, at the pictures a little bit. So all different in style, all different in content, obviously. But what's important for you? Now, most of you have not pitched today. What would you consider important when we talk about the written presentation part? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So not too much text, like visualize a little, still being able to grasp the essence, even though I'm not listening to Manuel, yeah?
I think we have to, sometimes you can be very detailed in the presentation, that can be a style. Or you can be very brief. So I usually say what I can say, I don't put in the presentation.
True. I mean, my consultant illness obviously continues because I have rather full slides. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So more than 10 words is already close to being a book. Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true.
We say it's in academia. We say it's an article. You don't want to put an article.
Yeah.
And I've seen in mass actually people just pulling up the article and kind of going through the written, and they lose people about after 10 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. We had one professor at university who sat down in the beginning of the session, and we had the freedom to choose whether we want to participate in lectures or not. Right? So it was okay if we were not present. It was okay, was allowed. And he was teaching kind of business informatics. And sitting down, and all his assistant like prepared everything, and the first slide was up, and his folder was opened with the first slide, etc., and his notes. And he sat down and said, "Welcome, this is course XYZ. I'm Professor so and so." And then I quote: "In the course of this lecture, I will not tell you anything that goes beyond what you see on the slides." In that second, 79 out of 85 people got up and left. 6 people remained. I was one of the 6 for the first 1.5 hours, and then I left. I never returned to those lectures. It literally was pure boring. And I'm talking about informatics, and I was like, this is a network. And then you have a German professor tell you 15 minutes what a network is of computers. And I'm old enough to be grown up with the development of networks. So I know how to connect computers and what this means. Yeah, super boring. Obviously, that doesn't help. So okay, so don't write an article. Don't do consulting slides if you talk to people. I've had slides with, well, here you have, if you leave out this, you basically have 2 words that I want to bring across on this slide. I've had slides like that for some time in my life. And then I restarted working for consulting. And it got worse. But it can be enough. You can show a picture. We had one of our professors, professor on entrepreneurship, maybe that's also connected. He had about 20, 25 slides for a 3-hour session. And you started writing like crazy because he was talking a lot and he was giving super cool examples and he was telling about all the strategies behind it. But there was a picture, like maybe 1 word. And you end up like having 2 pages full of notes on that 1 word. And we had professors from marketing. He had about 90 slides for 90 minutes. So you were not writing too much because you were trying to understand what he's saying at all. So also that is a big difference. Some general guidelines on how to create that. So a good presentation slide comes with a few important characteristics. Yeah? So just any kind of example, a revenue slide. You have one clear message. The content and the statement you have are aligned. So if you look at the title, revenues have been continuously on the rise. Yeah. If you look at the title or at the graph, yeah, you see that. Yeah. And then you have a slide that's easy to read. It's simple, and less is more. Yes, please quote me on that. Huh? So I like to be challenged. Now, an executive summary, and here are a lot of words already, but for an executive, instead of looking at 14 different pages, if I get that all summarized in this one, it's okay. It's powerful, it's insightful, I have a content description, I have content that is supporting my key message. I'm somewhat still considering this text to be easy to read, so no font size 7. There are maybe graphs on there, clear sources, simple and consistent format, so okay enough. Yeah, bear with me for a consultant, this is fine enough. This I would consider to be the contrary. Yeah? So here, even if you get it in writing and I have to document my presentation and my voiceover, this is still horrible. So you cannot present stuff like that. Not at all. Why not? Because even showing you the picture, you're losing interest, you stop listening to me. I can see in your face that you stop listening because you start reading. Yeah? And it's not even a slide that is of any interest for today's pitching class. So there's total nonsense for you. But you still start reading. And you lose me, and you lose the presentation, and you lose focus, and you lose the concentration. And it's my fault, because I present those slides. Tips to create a slide. Put a lot of words on there, like this one. Well, why am I putting a lot of words on here and not only highlighting or using the highlighted slides? Because I want you to be able, or everybody online, to be able to still understand what I'm saying in 3 weeks from now, when you review that. But for the presentation, for example, I would only go on the purple highlighted words. I would only say, look, content is more important than form. Leverage standard visual templates, so don't jump around. Try to be consistent in the template you use. Ensure horizontal logic, because obviously slide design is no longer a 4:3, but it's rather 16:9 format. Use bullet points. Helps minds to grasp various aspects. Categorize. Keep bullet points parallel. As you can see here, for example, almost every bullet point is starting with a verb. That also is super like unconscious. It's not something that you would look for if you're not a consultant, but it helps the mind to grasp things. Use color coding wisely. Don't make it a clown colorful painting from my 2.5-year-old, but try to make it a presentation. De-word where possible. So if you remove words, can it still be the same message that you want to bring across? The larger the audience, the simpler the slides. And use trackers such like this. We are still in the written communication part of my presentation. So you also know we're getting closer to an end. Some good, nice message. Yeah? But the larger the audience, the simpler the slides. I think if we look at company presentations or pitches that are broadcasted, if there's a new Apple event and they introduce a new product, they don't have a slide like this with 48 different bullet points and words. They have one picture, and maybe there are 2 words next to it. So I think it's not possible to do it any simpler. Sure. Yeah, please.
I was gonna ask just what you mentioned about Apple and having the simple slide. Is there space for creativity in this space of pitching? Like if you're going to be pitching to, I mean, again, I don't have like this crazy experience like you do, but I mean, if you're going to, be pitching to people who invest in VCs, angel investors, whatever you're pitching to, would they be insulted if you do that Apple approach and go against the grain? Like, does that kind of define your personality? Like, let's say that is who you are, and they're investing in the people and the team, like you mentioned. If you take on approach that's non-customary, is that insulting in the world of venture capitalist pitching? And
I would say not at all. One of the tips and tricks at the very last part in my wrap-up, there's like 3 pages tips and tricks, and one of them will say, be yourself. So be yourself. If that is how you present your company, and you have 10 slides with a picture each, then you do it.
I mean, how is the reaction to something like that? I mean, again, you have these norms, and then if you go against the norm, is it more of a risk, or do you think that could?
I think it's a risk you can account for. Yeah. So yes, it will be out of the norm. Yes, they will be surprised. On the other hand, you will stick in their minds because you are the one who was sending 10 pictures. Do you know the 10 picture guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but by the way, I think his approach on the engineering solution for XYZ is a super cool improvement. And the picture he showed with the one of the pictures could be a market graph. It's also a picture if you only have one line graph. Right? So, but it was super impressive. And then it's even more important what you tell. So if I only have nice pictures, and I don't know who of you realized, but all of my pictures are from Riga. So last time I've been here doing a lot of pictures. This time presentation, only pictures of Riga. So when you do stuff like this, some spoilers. When you do stuff like this, make sure that you have a good story to tell, and that you bring across why you're here. Not necessarily the same level, but when I handed in my CV to kind of rejoin consulting and Carney, well, I thought a lot on how to structure my CV. I wanted to be a bit more like up to date than the old school table of this is what I do, this is where I studied. So I created a 2 or 3 pages PDF file with my picture, my address, and then some quotes from former business partners and some references and a map of the world where I've been working and the languages I speak and my characteristics. I also had my past and my education. But it was 3 pages PowerPoint. It was colorful because I used some only 3 colors, but I used some colored template to create this CV. And I think a week after signing the contract, and then went to the office and I talked to the HR guy, and they're like, "You're Manuel." Like, yeah. And you, yeah, we haven't met. I'm Klaus. But I know you from the CV. You're the guy with the super cool CV. I mean, it obviously worked beforehand, yeah, but and I wasn't hired because I had a different CV than just a table, but it worked. So if you do something outstanding, okay, be prepared to deliver everything you want to deliver on top. And then in this case, I would probably differentiate between the pitch that I'm giving in person to the pitch that I'm giving them to read. So if I'm an investor, I need numbers, I need team background, I need market analysis, I need all of that. If I don't get that, I'm not judging you based on 10 pictures. But if I get that, and you send me 2 slides, and one is a super extensive, like consulting full page of details about the team, about the business model, about the market, about the competition, then I have what I need in order to do my due diligence. And then if you stand in front of me and you have 10 pictures, and you get me with your story and 10 pictures, then cool, I can do the rest with the DD team later. So then I would have 2 separate documents to ensure that I still get all the relevant information to my audience that they need. Does it help your? Yeah. So I think because we are somewhere in this valley of your at least it's close to being a food coma, yeah. I wanted to ask if you're still with me. Yeah. So anybody who feels like standing up would help and stretch your legs and arms and like everything. Does that help? Shall we all get up to get refreshed? I'm joining. You can get another Coke or a coffee. So 10 seconds. That is all in Latvia, not anymore in Riga. That line. Sorry? Celsius. Yeah, the city. Yeah. Yeah, I would have asked ins, but good is, yeah, probably. The lion? Sigulda, yeah. And obviously here those go together, and then yeah. I don't remember. It was a nice building. Yeah. So that obviously wasn't on my slide, how to engage audience, right? Have fun pictures in, but it also helps. I have no idea. No. It's all from Latvia. Also the yellow one, I don't know. It was nice. I took a picture. But we can ask Ins because he was driving me around. Online. Yeah, I did. So, which one?
This one.
Well, this one is more the red building and the yellow building. I don't remember exactly. Maybe. No, we have been driving around Latvia, and for sure they are all from Latvia, but I don't. Yeah, exactly. Because last time it was 5 days, and I don't remember on which day I took that picture. So the question here was just difference between online or in person or hybrid pitches, and the presentation here is a bit more on in person. when I would prepare online pitches, it's rather on sitting in front of a laptop. So I would like decrease my movement, and I would focus more to be present in a camera screen, to make me as big as possible in a camera screen.
I think what a lot of people don't understand is if you're a good presenter, you thrive from the reactions in the audience. And you were harvesting the energy. I saw you
Yeah.
actually take the energy from us. And I think that's something, I think that's a huge advantage of an in-person presentation.
Yeah.
That you,
Yeah.
even if people don't see, that you can get some feedback and that can empower you
Yeah.
to deliver a better presentation. And for me, it's so difficult to do it online, especially if not even one camera
Is on. Yeah, that's tough.
So you know you're talking to 70 people, and no questions, no
Yeah.
no thing, and
Exactly. So maybe because I'm not sure on how much of this is transported to Discord, and we will continue now. So that was only basically a deal breaker here to get you engaged again and entertained. But for that question, yes, in online settings, super hard if there's no camera on or only like two out of the full group. In a pitching situation, I would assume that your attendees are limited in terms of numbers, right? Maybe 5 to 10. But then if you do workshops or lectures or whatever, then it's up to 100. And then 3 out of 100 have their cameras on. 5 more don't have a microphone because it's broken and no camera. So they are close to being asleep. Super tough. Yeah, and as you realized, and I take this as a compliment. Yes, I'm someone I like to engage with the audience. Yeah, so I'm looking at you, I'm involving you, I'm entertained if you have a question. So for me, it helps a lot to do that. And even after my session, I'm probably even more energetic than before. So there are people who get exhausted when they stand in front of people. That's okay. Everybody's different. But if you do that in a pitch, not the pictures here, but if you stand in front of a group and you have to pitch, make sure that your energy level is high enough to get through there. So you don't have to feed on people's energy necessarily, but at least you have to be awake enough to go through. Good. So now I achieved the opposite of what I wanted, because now everybody is Googling and trying to find those two buildings in Latvia. I will later, after my masterclass, I will look up the exact date of when I took this picture of the red building, because I have it all on my phone. And then Inns will remember where we have been that day. And then we probably. Yeah, probably. But that is some, like, everybody who follows me until the end of the session, we can then look it up. But it's the red building, right? So we have to find the red building. Okay, we will. Before, yeah, so I achieved the opposite of what I wanted, because not everybody's on his phone or her phone. Great. Reminder, please always write locations next to pictures. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and yes, kind of similar points, but I like the last point in there is ditch students. So basically says at the end, or you just ignore everything I just.
But that goes back to the question: can you be out of the norm? Yeah, can you go, and can you be the guy, or the guy being here non-masculine, feminine, whatever? But can you be the person that has the 10 pictures for their pitch? Yeah.
I was wondering, could you flip this talk you were just giving? Can I give in a talk that teaches about pitching
Without talking.
So could I do some, you know the concept of flipped classroom, could I do some Google session, kind of mesh the people back together and come up, but let us come up with that.
Yeah, well, so
Can I even make a pitch this way, that I give my prototypes to the judges
Absolutely.
And then ask them what is still amiss, and then comment on that.
What-
That would be probably kind of breaking the paradigm.
I mean,
Getting attention.
if you do that in a real investor's case, that you enter a room with like your 4 favorite CVs and you put your your ready-made hardware prototype on top of them and say, like, look guys, can you please pitch me this? Not sure they're going to invest in you, except for you really have balls to do that. But besides that, I'm not sure. Yeah, would you do that in a classroom setting or in a master class or what? Of course, super cool. Let's do it. Yeah. So I stop talking. Now you do the rest, guys. That's an elevator pitch. I'm getting there in a second. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're in a judges panel and you have listened to 3 minute pitches, I cannot judge the last 5. Especially if
Hopefully you take notes.
you take
So,
note, but it's
yeah.
kind of
Yeah, it's
when this kind of
it's
super
exhausting.
fast pitches are,
Yeah.
they're killing you.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Absolutely. I'm not selling it, telling you it's easy on the other side, but here I'm focusing more on you. So you being in the position to pitch. Yeah. Let's do that because I have.
The best way in this case is to talk and that nobody understands what you want to say. And then at the end, everybody will ask, what you want to say? And this is attention, you know. Sometimes you can work like that.
Well, if you take the risk of boring your 4 favorite investors for 30 minutes and they don't grasp what you're talking about, not sure.
You can talk about everything in one storytelling. And then these people listen, maybe interesting part of this, maybe interesting part of this. And then maybe can you explain, and then people are interested in what you were talking. There are 2 interesting moments. Sometimes it works, sometimes not.
That goes into the direction of structure, and structure and storytelling are the next steps I want to discuss. So there are 2 more chapters: storytelling and then a business plan pitch, and that I want to share with you. So storytelling, there is inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning, because we heard that a great pitch is a sound document and a powerful presentation. We had the oral part, we had the verbal and non-verbal part. Now it's about writing. You had some basic rules. And on storytelling, I want to dive into the grouping or the argument part. So for grouping, you would see that you have an overarching objective topic aspect and that all the underlying arguments help you to support this. So you have all the details listed to that. And then for the argument part, it is more a flow of reasons, and if you combine them, it leads to a conclusion. Now, for the first one, for the grouping one, a very common methodology to follow is the pyramid principle, where we heard this with the articles in contrast, right? If you look at the pyramid principle, you start with your finding, you start with the result. And then you say, okay, and that's based on my key aspects. And note, it's again 3. Yeah? And they are, again, based on some supporting arguments. In academia, you work the other way around. You have your hypothesis, you do many things, and then at the very end, you have your result. If I write a mail like this to a CEO of a company with a starting and a hypothesis, and I write 2.5 pages, and then I say, by the way, can we meet next week? He or she is not going to read that because they stopped after line 4. If I start with, hey, hope you had a good week so far, can we please make an appointment for next week for a half an hour call? I want to discuss, and then I have all the reasons. That's pyramid principle. Very powerful, especially if people don't have time. Not only for your pitch, also for emails, also for private communication, also for whatever you want. Start with your message and then give some reasoning. At least if you have this grouping approach. If you are more the argumentation person, then you can do differently. If we are still in the grouping and we say, okay, but how about storytelling, storyboarding? Yes, that still can go together. So you have an executive summary, but even if we leave that out, we say, okay, there's a couple of issues that I'm trying to focus on. There's a reason for this issue, and then I have some key qualities that I want to focus on and give some details to that. Right? So describing something that is a situation and then diving into a solution right away still would be considered, at least to the methodological scientific part, close enough to the pyramid principle. If we go to the argument one, we have all this situation, complication, resolution, which might be considered similar, and then approach, findings, implications, etc., etc. And it all leads to a framework that I want to present, which is called STOKE, which is a framework that works super well, and I give you various examples to that. STOKE stands for situation, trigger, overriding question, key message, and explanation. That's the structure behind emails, presentations, verbal communication, movies, series, books. So if you take, I don't know, we can jump from Disney movies to Batman or whatever, but if we take Batman, we say there's a situation. We have Gotham City being a super international a mega city. The trigger is, the problem is that there's this Joker guy turning the city upside down. So how can we get back to normal is the question. Obviously, the key answer to that is we have Batman. And Batman will bring things back to normal. Is there some explanation on top? Yes, he's a ninja, he's a super billionaire, he has all the cool gadgets, he has Robin, he has Batwoman, etc., etc., etc. The same works for Lion King, the same works for books, the same works for any other aspect in life. People are used to follow this kind of storytelling, and it helps a lot to grasp people's attention, even unconscious. If I do it in a business situation, and those are also the examples that you see here, yeah. So we have a situation where you just explain what it is. The Batman was Gotham City is a mega city. Yes, okay, nobody is surprised. The market environment has been steadily growing, and recent technology pushed help to elevate this even further. Yeah, like everybody in the room will know. They know their markets, they know the industries. Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you telling me? Yeah, of course. Well, last year, shift in the regulations forced many companies to change the way they conduct business. That's the problem, exactly. That's why we're here. Now, this overriding question is not necessarily one that I would need to write on a slide in my pitch deck. If I have a situation and the trigger, the question is clear. Yeah, so obviously here the question is, how can I deal with these regulations? Do I need to write that down? No. But then I'm going to present the key message, and that is then my solution, my pitch. And I have lots of explanations on why my pitch is so good and my value proposition is helping. And we had that elevator pitch a second ago. True story happened to me, I think it was just before COVID happened. We were supposed, as a consulting company, we were supposed to have a meeting with the CEO of a company. We wanted to pitch our approach for a problem that we discussed with them. We knew they have this situation. We wanted to pitch our proposal to get a project. And that's how we earn money. That's how we want to pitch. We want to earn money. And one of the Carney partners and myself sitting in front of the CEO office and waiting, and he was like 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. The secretary approached us if we want another cup of coffee or glass of water. She was super sorry, super embarrassed. It wasn't her fault. 20 minutes late, 25 minutes late, 30 minutes late. He rushed out of his office excusing himself 4 or 5 times that there was a super important stakeholder meeting and it took longer, etc., etc., etc. And then he excused himself again because he would literally have no time. He needed to go to another meeting at the other part of the city. So we had, and the first time in my life, we had an elevator pitch in the elevator going down to the garage and he entering his car and leaving. Well, yes. I mean, could have gone wrong, absolutely, yeah. But this is one of the examples where, and I'm a big fan of failure culture and talking about failures and what did not work, but this time it worked. We showed him this slide. We had a title saying that our approach will tackle this and this and this problem in a thematic way X. And then we had, again, 3 parts of the slide, 3 columns with the 3 major parts of the project that we're proposing and kind of the key takeaway as a tombstone underneath. That's it. And it was to sell our project proposal to him. And he would be able, like he would be the one where we wanted him to agree so that we get paid and can start the project. So we showed him one slide and I was literally, I don't have my laptop here, but it was my laptop on my arm in the elevator. Going to his car, shaking hands, he sat down, drove off. Day after, his secretary called, made another appointment for 1.5 hours, I think 2 or 3 weeks later. So that is powerful if you have the right storytelling, right? We said, look, we understand your situation, here's how we're going to solve it. And obviously the situation trigger part was 1.5 sentences on the way to the elevator. And that's maybe not the way it should be, but this Stoke framework, it helps a lot. So thinking about your pitches might be a good idea to do something like this. And that's my last part now. A business plan pitch. Now I gave you a lot of input on what are enabling factors. What do you do in oral presentations? How do you perform? How do you move? How do you use your voice? Written communication, Stoke framework, slide details, etc. But what about a business plan pitch? There's a couple of definitions. What is a business plan good for, right? It's good for communicating your business model. It is good for giving others an understanding of what you do. But it also helps to monitor and kind of guide internal teams towards a common goal. And so it's marketing, self-information, and the business plan impressively and convincingly demonstrates the possibility that the underlying business idea will generate turnover to deliver satisfactory results. That makes it interesting. Now, for the pitch deck, somewhat touching parts that we had before, but also parts where I said, be yourself, what is going to be on one of my slides. Yeah? So know your counterpart. We said we need to know the attendees, know the organizational aspects, know and deliver your numbers, bring all materials that you need, be on time, be yourself. If I'm myself, if I only show you 10 pictures, I'm going to be myself because then I'm most convincing. And then a couple of details that you can also read on the, in the deck later or review online. 10 to 20 slides, clear structure. The numbers part should be clearly structured and make sure that you have the most relevant KPI for the audience you talk to. I introduced you to the Stoke framework, situation, trigger, key message, the overriding question, and the explanation. Now I'm going to give you the last 4 or 5 slides with a structure of a business plan. There are different structures, and I shortened this deck because I also have examples where you could have 5, you could have 15 different sections and so on and so on. But typically, some like most common ground or basis that they all share are these 9, more or less in this order. Introduction, problem and solution. So that is situation, trigger, and my key message. Do I need this overriding question? No. If I make the title of my solution slide answering an implicit question, I don't need my trigger, my question articulated. And then everything that comes behind my solution is an explanation on why my solution is going to be so successful. I will. The next slides are doing exactly that. That's why I have 4 more slides. Now I have been challenged a couple of times. Why is team so late? Yeah, you can do the team here, but then no one knows what you talk about in details. If you do it right after the solution, yes, and I like that I interpret it as then you forget what the team is until the end of the presentation, right? So you want to keep that in mind of the people. So I did put it there. I've seen different. And here, yes, you have some degrees of freedom. Yeah? If you want to present your team here and here and here and there, be my guest. Yeah? I said earlier that when I ask investors what they invest in people. And when okay, I get that. And after that, I invest in people. Okay, I mean, they are super important. But after you understood who the people on the team are, then you invest in the people. Okay, I got it. And then I stop questioning. Yeah? So yeah, feel free to challenge me if you want to categorize it differently. Be my guest. Introduction and problem. So a one sentence high level pitch as intro. It can be the summary. When you asked the question earlier to Alex, like what exactly are you doing? In my mind, I formed something like, we are a development company that is supporting customers industry agnostic to help digitalize their current processes. Something like this. Yeah. And I asked, exactly, so individualized. I asked him, I said, like, yeah, you could say that. So obviously those are my words. Yeah. But I would try to to create this one sentence overview. And then obviously, if we're talking about a pitch to an investor, they are interested in current stakeholders, in your legal name. They need some kind of information provided to them. It's not a slide that you would read out. It doesn't matter if you are a limited, if you are a whatever type of company, if you stand in front of those people. It's to read. But you need to have it somewhere. The problem. What is the problem? And who's the target group? So what are we talking about? Why are we here? Why are we listening to you to pitch your idea? Well, because I found a solution for people always falling asleep in my presentations. Okay, right? So you would note that a little different. But you would say, look, situation is, we do presentations all over the world, we do workshops, we do classes, we do master classes, we do them in person, we do them online, and no one has the camera on and always people fall asleep. The solution is, we always do them only with the complete audience standing while we do it. No one can fall asleep. And by the way, we create a cool new tool, that's already here now, yeah? We create a cool new tool that is not giving an air refreshment scent, but that is pouring caffeine into the air as a powder, right? So everybody in the room is going to be super energized. Or we give away shockers together with the name tags at the entrance of the building. Yeah, that's it. Even if you don't put it on your shirt and you put it in your pocket, you still get a shock. Problem solved. Now invest in me. Yeah? So you provide intro and problem, then you dive into the solution. What is the value proposition? Bring it on, like make it precise. What's the USP? And then bring a demo or click demo. Suggestion here, not necessarily a live demo. Back to the Steve Jobs example with the iPhones. Yeah, live demos are always risky. You can test it 100 times, and if you're convinced, do it. If you have a little doubt, don't do it. And then we have situation, problem, solution, or situation, trigger, and key answer. And now all the details are my explanation within the Stoke framework. So go into the market. You can obviously, there's a break I wasn't intending, but you can obviously go into very much detail with the market, have it high level enough, but also at the same time detailed enough so that people still get interested and are listening to you. For VCs or bigger investors, they would want to look at really big numbers. I've had a couple of friends from university. So I've studied business, and they were obviously business majors as well. And they teamed up with a couple of engineers from another university, and they were doing, actually it was a university project at first, and it was on band-aids that you would be able to use inside your body. So after an operation, they would not knit you, but they would put a band-aid on it, then close the wound, and then it would dissolve within 2 weeks by itself. Yeah. Super fancy stuff. A big pharma was included, the university was included, and then some of my colleagues from business university. The big pharma turned it down because they said there's a market of less than $1 billion for this in Europe. We're not investing. Okay. They got a nice arrangement to use this patent, and they formed a company and did it themselves and with other investors, because there are other investors that do invest into markets that are less than $1 billion. This pharma company was not at all interested, because it works also with current glue solutions. It also works with other stuff, but then you have to either remove it or like reopen. Like it's crazy. Yeah? So it was not necessarily something they need to push to the market, and then they lose interest. So make sure that the your market numbers fit the interest of your audience, where we had earlier, know your audience. If they're looking for big numbers, make sure you have big numbers, else you need other investors. Competition and business model. So competition, one sentence that I've myself heard a couple of times in my life, talking to startups. Yeah, we don't have competition. But how is it solved at the moment? Yeah, there's no one who's doing the same as we do. Aha. But what is the solution that's currently being used? Right, when the fork was invented, there probably was either a spoon before or at least the hand. Right? So something was there before. So you don't have a competition because no one has invented a fork. Okay, understood. But you're replacing something. And that is what I want to learn about. Now the fork obviously has a couple of advantages compared to my fingers, but besides that, it might be... absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But that is super important. Why do you provide value? And you can use visuals. We had visuals before as a better presentation parts. So make sure you know what you're competing against. And if you, I had a pitch when I was working for RTL. I had a pitch from a company that was focusing on children and wanted to create digital apps on tablets for children. So okay, cool. Who's your competition? Yeah, that is kind of an app that has no competition yet. We ended up agreeing that they compete for the time the children spend with the app, and they compete with others about the same time. It can be a learning app, it can be television, it can be internet, YouTube, it can be the tennis lesson or football class or my piano class or whatever, but I'm competing against the time that this kid has during the day. And there are many, many others who also want to have that time slot. So I have a lot of competition. Right? So everybody has competition. And the business model, well, obviously, how do you earn money? Right? How's the investment going to pay off? And then what are the details? What is a revenue cost aspect? We saw the business model canvas earlier in In's presentation. So make sure that you have an understandable business model. Doesn't necessarily to be in the business model canvas style, even though Alex Osterwalder is a cool guy and it's a really great model, but there are other ways to also summarize that. Team and status, I think I said a lot about the team. So super important, present the team, present the strength, say why you picked that team or who's bringing what part to the party. And be hungry. So show them, demonstrate them, not only on the slides, but also how you present that. If you're almost falling asleep yourself during your pitch, you're not hungry. Yeah, but you should be there 110% engaged and super, super keen to talk about this, and they feel if you like what you talk about. Yeah, exactly. Earlier today I said be prepared and be like in a good mindset and don't be hungover. Here the status is not the situation I explained in the beginning, but status here means more like what's my financial or business status at the moment. Where am I? What is my look ahead? When we remember In's presentation earlier today, we are in the middle of 7 steps of the STARRISE journey. That's the status. Yeah. So I want to tell them, look, I started 1.5 years ago, it can also be part of the situation in the beginning. But if I know, say, where am I had some pre-funding, this is what I achieved, this is what we're doing right now. With your potential investment, we're looking at this part in the future. And then you show them a bit of the status and the outlook. And last but not least, you're going to have a certain ask. Yeah? And if you're pitching, most of the times it's pitching for financial investments or strategic partnerships, then you're not asking for numbers, but then you're asking for contacts, for any kind of value chain support or networks, whatever. And it depends on whether it is presented live or submitted. You might need to adjust those slides a little bit. One hint, never, I mean, we all know Shark Tank and similar series from TV, yeah, but typically you would not necessarily include in the first touch point your company presentation and your direct ask. Shark Tank is well prepared, and as in the second that they get into the show, everybody more or less has heard about it, and they play a nice role in listening to it the first time. But if you do that really the first time, you don't have to argue that your company evaluation is 3.554 million, because it might be 3, it might be 4. Let that sink in, and you can discuss later. But you should know about it. If they give you an offer to buy 10% of your company for 100,000, you should be able to say, well, I might want to reconsider because that seems a little low. If you're super surprised by that and you say yes, you have a problem. Good. Yeah, just a quick. Basically, it's more for the summary of it. A quick thing on the financials. Have them structured, have them prepared. Include the KPI that you would want your investors to know that they are used to look at, like the profit and loss, cash flow details, KPI, customer acquisition cost versus customer lifetime value. How much does it cost me to get someone, and how much will I earn with this additional person? Right? Stuff like that. So obviously, maybe. So obviously financials need to be in shape. And then I think, yeah, that is common pitfalls for the pitch, but also then financials, right? If you have a concept described with very technical precision, but you don't know how to earn money, well, then you're probably a super tech guy, an engineer, and I admire that, but then the commercialization doesn't help if it's missing. Product is supposedly innovative, that there is no competition. I said that doesn't exist. Revenue is overestimated and cost and capital requirements underestimated, then your financials will be torn apart in the next due diligence phase. Or if there is no competitive advantage in the business plan, then you can't convince your investors why to invest. I know I'm getting a bit towards the end. If I'm correctly with my time, I have about 10 minutes left to still stay in line, even though we started a little later. But as you realized, I talk a lot, but fast. And I just overwhelmed you with so many nice consulting slides that you forgot half of them. But that's why I do a Q&A and a wrap-up now. So my last 4 slides, because the last 4 that I announced were in this storytelling part, and now was the last 4 of the whole presentation. Bit of tip on tricks and a summary. 4 parts that I said I'm going to summarize. So you have been kind of exposed for this wave of information, a couple of examples, to know your audience when you're pitching, to consider the surrounding enabling aspects and factors, to think about the way of the oral presentation, body language, tone, etc., and to think about the written presentation part, be it the Stoke concept, in the length of business plan or not. If we listen to a couple of presentations tomorrow afternoon, let's focus on keeping it short, right? We don't need a 20-page, perfectly nice and shiny presentation. No, you can do it without slides. You can just get up in the front and give a little presentation. I personally would still do it with the Stoke approach, situation, trigger, and my key answer, but it's up to you as you like, as you feel comfortable. Be yourself. And now the last 3 slides, a couple of tips and tricks. And so, as I said here, you covered the full session. You are brave and polite enough to still sit here and to follow, and I did not see people falling asleep. I'm not sure about Discord or the other room, I can't see, but everybody in this room is still awake and more or less smiling. So you followed the pitch perfect, mastering the art of innovation storytelling, and now it's time for a couple of tips and tricks before I stop talking. Know your counterpart, know and deliver the numbers, complete your contact details, show passion, and be prepared and be yourself. Some of that was already in the previous slides. That's why this is the wrap-up. Accuracy, preparation, and also contract. Here it's contact. Contract details. Those are 3 things that come probably later. Yeah? Accuracy also helps, obviously, during the pitch, but then later we will really go into the numbers. That's why in some of the Shark Tank episodes, you see that, or you hear that, yeah, based on last week's show, there was one deal that did not really take place because in the end they realized there were some hidden aspects in the numbers that no one talked about before. Okay. Yeah. Keep it short. Don't write a novel, an article, a book, whatever. Make it clear. Keep it short and simple. KISS. And I keep it short and simple. Not keep it stupid simple. I on purposely did the short thing. But yeah, right? Have it short, have it clear, have it as error-free as possible, right? So reread your slides. Keep it simple, short. Do it non-techy, so do it understandable. Be impressive. Also, everything that you give away, your prototypes, your tests, your demos, your handouts, it has to be impressive. Does it need to be with a golden something and all pre-printed and delivered by someone on a golden on a red carpet? No. But it has to not be the paper that I slept on last night and it was somewhere in my bed. I'm sorry, but it looks a little ugly, but there's coffee on it, but it's super cool inside. And be objective, be precise. I would personally definitely say, yes, you have to be ambitious on one side, but then also don't be completely over the moon and be conservative where it makes sense. And you want to also be able to meet what you promise. Please don't do a novel. If that is your business plan, I hope that's not what you're presenting. And it's a real example, right? I received there were, I think, 4 pictures in there, but it was like 27 pages of text. And then the last sentence here said something like, the estimated profit in year 1 will be 70,342 and 11 cents. And then in year 2, it will be 2,295,489 and 72 cents. And that's why exactly? Like how many customers? What are your business departments? But I could have majored in engineering with all the remaining text because I exactly knew what they were doing in terms of product. Had no idea about the market, the customers, like nothing. So here is where I say, like, are you guys kidding me? Like, please don't. Yeah. So no novel. Please, no careless mistakes. No inconsistency. You can be nervous when you talk, that's okay. I also have forgotten a word when I was presenting, or you stumble and then sometimes no, actually I have to restart that phrase. Yeah, okay, that's super cool. Now they are sitting there because that's a full-time job. You're getting in front to pitch, not because it's your daily job, but because you want to convince someone of a cool idea or a value proposition that you have. And then later, please don't do an ego trip. Ask for a review and insights. And something that always comes up from now and then, typically there's no need to get someone to sign an NDA. Yeah? So here, when I talk to all of you, I'm not necessarily signing an NDA because I listen to your idea. When I do that as a consultant, when I do that as an entrepreneur, or in the past in university or wherever, I don't sign those NDAs. If I do my job correctly, then I should have a moral that is high enough to do this job. If I don't have this moral, and if I don't stick to keep things confidential, this information will spread like fire, and tomorrow no one will want to work with me again. So we had that earlier in one of the 3 pitches we heard, or the 3 company insights we heard, that people tend to be very cautious in what do I share, what don't I share. So would I take my super secret e-commerce business model idea and tell it a former student of my university who owns this rocket internet incubator in Berlin? No. Because he literally has a building that is half full of programmers and half full of marketing experts. And it takes him probably 2 weeks to recreate what I have as an idea. And maybe I haven't even started. Would I tell that someone of you, or a close friend, or someone where I value the idea absolutely? Yes. Probably yes. Because I might be months ahead of you in that thinking. Yeah, so I don't worry to be copied. Will I be copied? Yes, if I'm good. But maybe not on day 1. Maybe on day 29, as we learned. And last but not least, the translation of some common phrases. This is more for fun. Yeah. What's in the plan? Well, we conservatively calculated. Well, we heard that it usually is about that. Let's do it. We have halved our most realistic assumptions. Actually, we divided everything by half because we needed bigger numbers. We expect a 10% margin. Well, there was some template that said 10 is cool and you want to see 10. Let's do 10. The product is like really almost finished. I would say 98%. Yeah, but it will take us another couple of years to get there. And we only need a 10% market share, just like anyone else who's pitching, because you always only need 10% market share. And customers are raving about our product. And well, we don't know how to earn money, but the idea was super, super cool for every relative that I asked. And there is no competition except that all the big players have recently announced plans to go into exactly that market in 2025. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. And now I'm very happy to have questions if I'm still allowed to spend 2-3 minutes. Okay, I get 1.5. Sorry. Please.
You mentioned several times know your audience.
Yeah.
And I think that question hasn't been answered here in the hackerspace yet. We only have been told that it's not even clear who's judging this. So can somebody shed some light on the audience? Yeah, so we have been told several times that we should know our audience, and some twist of this hackathon is that we don't. So I'm trying to advocate for the teams here that we shed some lights about who is judging us.
Are you answering, or is just the microphone going back? Well, as In said, today we are all equal, and yes, even as facilitator, I realized that I'm a little more emotionally attached to the topic. So, what can I say about the audience? I honestly think that in this case, the audience is less important. What for me would be the outcome of the presentations, or the setting of the presentations, is that by tomorrow we hear, and I say we because I'm facilitator, I will try to exclude myself from the team. I will listen to the broader teams then, so that in sum, the presentations would provide a good idea of what has been worked on and the progress that has been worked on those topics. Is it necessary that we imagine this to be an investor or a public body or just a business partner? Not necessarily, because we are not really going to have this special ask at the end of the presentation, I would guess.
But then still, do we have an academic audience? Is it kind of, so can we be more technical than we would be in
No, I would say keep it simple. We are presenting all amongst this group, right, and including Discord then, but the people we are talking about are the same that are here in the room. And we're trying to get a bit ahead in these technical readiness levels that Ins introduced or presented earlier. So we're trying to help a business idea to be implemented and be created. I for sure won't, if I would be judged, I wouldn't be looking at academic purpose, because academic for me ends in that second where I can prove something works. What we want to do here is we want to create real projects that might realize revenues at the end. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For my judge experience, that's actually a lot of things to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels very fine-grained in comparison to other judge settings that I have been in. So wondering,
But
there has been no briefing of the judges apart from look at the table. That makes it for me look quite academic and seems to ask for a lot of details. And that is an opposite to your claim of keeping it simple.
Well, keeping it simple in terms of wording and words I use or explanation. The details that Ins presented that judges will look at, I think they are absolutely valid. Why are they valid? Because we cannot look at a ready-made business model and only compare numbers tomorrow, right? So that would be a little unfair in, I don't know, about 24 hours remaining. Ins, we're discussing the question of, you heard, okay. So, yeah, without knowing or being able to disclose who judges are, the question of who would be the audience, I tried to say from my perspective, it is really more about, can we get a certain idea to move forward? And then the audience is a little independent from this question. For me, it's really how we have a certain idea and we worked on these and these and these details to move it forward and to make a real business case out of it without having the case fully published and polished and no prototype. But we started, we did our thing, and this is what we have right now. This is what we are proud to announce and to present. That would be my approach. And now I'm happy to be, but I see some nodding in the back, so that's promising. Yeah, but you said you nodded. So I would say that you feel similar to me, that it...
Again, answer to your question in the morning, but you don't see who are the mentors, who are the participants, and who are the judges.
So, but then we cannot know our audience when we design the pitch.
It's all of us. I said it's all of us. The audience is everybody in the room.
But that's, Manuel says this is a business case.
Yeah.
Thinking on this on the business case as you are approaching some investor. I'm not saying investor
Yeah.
fund or private one.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. So the microphone.
It's on.
Okay, yeah. So pretty much it means that you have to present your product, your idea, your service to anyone who might be interesting to invest in it. I'm not
Time,
saying that
money,
it is a
resources.
pension fund. I'm not saying that it's venture capital. Okay, let's make it simple. Let's do it so that we want to invest in you. We all want to invest in you. Convince us. Make it interesting.
So if you're not asking for 400 and what did I write, like 2.295,745 and 11 cents, it's okay if you don't ask for that number. I would not be able, in my team, I would not be able to write a number at the end to ask for.
You can. I will say so. You can write whatever number you want. because it will be at this moment it will be a bit a game, because I'm not sure that, as Manuel said, in next 24 hours you will be able to present a real business case. Definitely not. This is some pre-business case idea pitch.
And I mean, I also said for the business cases in my slides, I said they serve a purpose of information for externals, marketing for the idea, internal as guideline. Yeah. But one thing we all know, like everybody who has ever touched any business plan or has been in touch with business plans at any kind, we all know that one thing is sure, they're never true. They're either way too low or way too high. But they are never accurate, never. Yeah, that's okay. So we don't expect tomorrow something. So for my group, I would say we can't get to a point where we have a solid business plan tomorrow evening and presenting that to all of you, convincing you that you all want to invest your personal money in that. I doubt that. With like, and it's it's okay. So we have a very
we
ambitious
have
team.
one investor, please.
Yeah. So I would. That's true. But that brings me back to my saying that I would understand this as we have this title that we work on, this topic. We do certain things following the 5 steps of the design sprint. And tomorrow evening, we can all present something that we reached, why we reached it. And we could give a little outlook on what might be next steps or something. Yeah, but then I think that would be already a cool pitch, and then it's okay if we do that for all of us to convince others that this is a cool thing to continue. I'm taking too much time. Let's take this offline, and happy to continue. Thanks all for your participation.
The presentation is starting. Everybody sit down. Dun 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 dun.
Testing, testing. Hope you all can hear me. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so shall I start? Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to my presentation. My name is Ismet Bakhtia. I am here to talk about a very close aspect of technology that I feel that's not really covered a lot. I'm not too sure that this is the right forum or audience, considering the fact that a lot of people are working on business cases and I'm working on cultural cases, where how can you create a more diverse and vibrant culture in technology? But I'm hoping that whatever I'm showing off today would inspire people to actually pick up some of these ideas, change their attitudes towards just like seeing gamers or games as a very siloed type of enterprise, and to see that it's collaborations. My name, well, I already talked about my name. I'm actually Singaporean, but I live in Norway. I've been living there for the last 18 years. Funny enough, I realized that Oslo is 1.5 hours away by plane to Riga, and Tromsø, where I live, way up in the north, is 2 hours away by plane. So that sense of like, wow, I'm really in a very, very far off, flung place. But at the same time, Tromsø has always been this hub for exploration. It's always been a place for polar explorers. All the polar explorers who went to the North Pole stopped in Tromsø and they moved on. So it's been a place where people are unafraid to try new things. So maybe that's why I ended up in that place. This is a little bit of background to myself. I'm old, I'm 48 years old, but I've been a geek all my life. You know, I grew up in the 80s. This is, I mean, I don't really have photos of myself in that time, or at least not very good representations of those photos, so I got AI to do it. But this is representative of me. I'm reading video game manuals. I have like comic books all over the place. I'm watching He-Man or Transformers on TV. I grew up in pop culture. And I grew up also with the birth of video games. When I was 6 years old, Atari 2600. I remember when I was 10 years old, I prayed to God, like, please, God, please, please, please give me a computer. I just want a computer. And I got a computer when I was 9 years old. Very, very old Apple II, monochrome screen, brown and green. That was it. But it was enough to give me so much love for this. And there's something about it that was a medium that I could actually interact with. There's something I can do, and it responds back to me instead of just watching TV or reading a book, which I also love. But there's something special about video games. And from then on, I mean, like, I kind of pursued a career into video games, and I went through many different pathways. I mean, I started out, there's not really any video game education when I was like starting to getting to university. So I went to media studies and I wanted to be a filmmaker first. But then I was arguing with my film lecturers and I was telling him like, video games is such an important source of like media entertainment. And he was like, video games are for kids. And I'm like, no way, you know, completely pissed off of that. I had a business idea back then, which was to record all my friends playing video games, because I said people will watch people playing video games. And people were like, you're crazy, who would do that? And so I was doing it analog, recording people playing on the PlayStation, putting into my reel and trying to create this TV show. In the end, I spent all my time on that, but then, you know, 5 years later down the track, there was Twitch. So there was a bit of validation on my part that, okay, it's true, people do watch video games, and it creates a lot of different countercultures or cultures around that. I started working in as a writer. So that's my skill set. I can write. And I started writing for a magazine in Singapore called Game Axis, where I then got to be the editor. And I also incorporated a lot of pop culture stuff. So I covered comic books, I review shoes, music, and movies. So everything that was part of geek culture around me. And then I ended up moving to Norway because of my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, and ended up working in a place called Funcom. This crazy game called The Secret World, which was a multiplayer online role-playing game about modern day times. And in this game, you don't play as like, the World of Warcraft, like orcs or elves. You play as the Illuminati or the Templars. And in this whole entire idea, every conspiracy theory is true in the game. So my whole entire job was to spend time reading a lot of conspiracy theories. So I'm really a little bit crazy in the head because I've read a lot of weird stuff. But at the same time, I create a lot of viral marketing campaigns out of that. Ended up working in EA also for this game company called Secret Island. 2 weeks before we were supposed to launch, EA pulled the plug on the game and said, oh, well, you know what, we're closing the studio. And unfortunately, this is what my experience of working in video games has been a roller coaster ride of like amazing creativity, a lot of talented people, but oh my God, what a volatile experience. And you never know, sometimes success just comes, and sometimes even though you put so much effort into it, things will just fall apart. But that ended up working in my own company, and then started working as a media consultant and producer in Tromsø, and that's how I got hired into the municipality, where I'm now currently a project leader for this brand called Creative Technology. Now, a lot of these things does not happen out of vacuum. The interesting thing about Tromsø is that Tromsø has this amazing building called Tvibit. Tvibit in Norwegian is a slang, it's a Norwegian slang that basically means a safe space. When you're playing police and thieves, the place where the robbers can't be caught, that's a Tvibit. That's the type of space where we just allow you to fail, allow you to actually create stuff without any expectation, without you expecting it to be a major success, but everyone's rooting for you. So that's Tvibit's type of philosophy, and it's been around for a while. And they have been supporting all the traditional cultural movements. So we're talking about film, music is such a huge part, performance arts. And then technology came into play, and then they were like, okay, what do we do about games? And that's how I ended up working with particularly this segment of people. Tvibit is not a school. It's about informal learning through projects, seminars, and workshops. So a lot of it's ad hoc, coming from the community itself. In Tvibit, the philosophy is that we don't know what we want to do this year, but we're going to know what the market wants. So the market speaks to us. All the youths come up to hang out with us and tell us, like, I really want to learn how to do AI stuff. Or I really want to learn how to do Unreal. And that's how we then, we start to work out and find real people, good people or lecturers who can actually teach all these subjects to all our users and basically up their game. So you can check us out on our website at tvibit.net, or if you happen to one day come to Tromsø, I'd love you to come visit this lovely little building that we have. So in the beginning, when I was hired in, this was the main thesis. So as a filmmaker, myself, I said, man, you know what? If only filmmakers were working with gamers or game developers, they will create crazy stuff. I can imagine that that's going to happen. And of course it's true. I mean, to a certain degree, filmmaking also is a highly technological process. You do a lot of editing, you do a lot of graphics, you do a lot of motion graphics. There's so many tips and tricks that you can make a movie fantastic. But this theory had to have like more of like a explanation into how we actually put it into play. So this was in 2016, that was the birth of commercial VR. That's when you start seeing all the Samsung phones, you start seeing the first Oculus Quest, or back then it was just called the Oculus. And we wanted to explore 360 filmmaking. And how is 360 filmmaking going to work? Is this a viable platform? Can you create actual good narrative? How do you block shots when it's 360 and you can see everything? So this was the study that we were doing. And at the same time also, we also had a film festival called Norwegian Youth Film Festival. So it's 1 week where everyone just has to create an idea from scratch all the way until showing it to a cinema audience. And we had a group of half of them were game developers, half of them were filmmakers. And we put them together, we shake them up, we gave them a lot of like guidelines, and we say, okay, let's see what you guys create. And in the end, they didn't create a 360 film, they created an interactive film. But in that process itself, during my time there, we start creating a safe space for gamers to hang out. And this was a super important aspect of it. Because a lot of these gamers, they are used to actually talking online, playing with their friends online or in their small groups of friends, but they don't not used to actually just socializing on a larger aspect. And they also not used the fact that a lot of gamers say that they're gamers, but they are not really quite aware of how much history there is in video games. So the first one, the first projects that we had was that we brought the Commodore 64 to all these young kids and like, here, you guys set it up. And they were like, what's this stuff, cassettes and everything. So, you know, but they did it. And then they enjoyed the process and they started building all this. We had every Wednesday, we had the gaming sessions. And then we start seeing like different types of communities. So we had a bunch of people who really loved playing Super Smash. And they wanted to be esports athletes. And they wanted to have a space where they can actually practice playing Smash every week. So we gave them a space. A lot of the girls were like, okay, we just want to have an all-girls session as well. Okay, yeah, sure, let's do that. And all this like exposure to different types of like ways that gamers approach or gamers consume games or talk about games or play games really made me to really open my mind, widen my horizons around that. Yeah. And it started going bigger and bigger. This is from a little LAN parties that we have inside the house. And you can start to see that there's a rising movement. It was very organic. So from then on, we started also going around and teaching primary schools kids how to work with VR. And this was super inspiring also to come to Latvia, where VR is such a central part of the culture here. And so many interesting businesses is doing that, and especially in DATEC, where, you know, young kids as well. So I love the fact that the young kids are exposed to it and realizing that there is a lot of potential to it, a lot of new ways that they can actually learn how to work with VR as a media. And for us, it's not just about playing games, it's about creating with the technology that you have at hand. So, let's see. What's the, oh, it's not moving to the next slide? Oh, sorry. Let's go back one. Ah, no. Let's see. One more behind. Ah, there we go. The lag. Okay. There we go. So out of the whole entire experience, after we start building this organic community, after we start establishing the fact that there exists a need, even this small little area in North Norway where, you know, 40,000 people, there's a community of like gamers. A lot of them are eager, they have skill sets, they have different things that they can actually impart into society. How do we create this into an actual infrastructure, a structure for them to work? So for us, we managed to, luckily enough, we managed to get funding. And funding came from a very different source than where your regular funding comes from. Our funding came from a bank. And in this instance, the bank had this scheme where they give back to the community itself. So from our project description, the intention was that we were going to explore game culture development, new media techniques in North Norway. That was the first original statement that we had. And we got funded for around about 250,000 euros per year, just to actually focus on this aspect here. And of course, that money was a lot, but you know, it also ended up allowing us to create actual facilities that really work. So we had a media lab for people to live stream from. We had a makerspace that people can learn how to 3D print and 3D model. And we also had a co-working environment where everyone can just sit down informally, have a project idea that didn't come from school, it came from their heart, and they can sit down with us and can talk about it and can discuss and work on it. At the same time, we were giving a lot of support to film festivals. We're doing a lot of R&D projects, and of course, in this kind of like, in this instances, collaborations like what we're doing with Noban and with in Latvia. So lovely opportunity for us to learn from each other. And I can't do this on my own. I am not, like I said, you know, I'm mostly a writer, producer, or creative director. You can say that, but you know, I also need a lot of good technical skills in my team. And interesting enough, a lot of people on my team are none of them are formally educated. A lot of them are educated by YouTube. So they all grew up watching YouTube, applying all their YouTube skills at home or in their work, and learning constantly, all the time. So Bjorn is a gamer, a Twitch streamer himself. Chris is a crazy AI artist and 3D artist. Sebastian does all the live streaming and is a live stream technician. And we also have interns who's been joining us every year, coming in from the schools. So I love the fact that the team itself is not like, oh, you know, high accolades or whatsoever. It's just that you show that you can actually do the work, and you have a great portfolio behind you that you have established, that you have actually been involved in a lot of different productions. Together, we have been creating this. So this is a little showreel of stuff that we do at Creative Technology. And I'll just play it while let it play. So for us, our philosophy, our motto is that we're exploring cultural activities through, exploring technology through cultural activities. So our application is the idea that anything that's culturally driven can have that technological component to it, and we're going to jump into that project as well. Okay. I just want to get down to two important case studies that we've been working on. One is an aspect that I think some of you, or at least most of you, are starting to get a lot more familiar with. Maybe 5 years ago, when you say virtual production, people are like, what? What are you talking about? But these days, it is the current convention. Everyone uses virtual production. In fact, most of the stuff that you see on Netflix, all filmed on a LED screen, mostly. Then you also have, I also have another project called Norway's Best Gamer, which is also, for me, it's a reinvention of esports, which I feel is a lovely market, but not doing enough work to appeal to the masses, and not actually a representation of gaming culture, enough of a representation of gaming culture. So let's start with the slide on virtual production. So, virtual production, how many of you are familiar with that, at least? Yeah, sort of? Kind of? Yeah? Yeah? I think a lot of people are familiar with this aspect here, right? A lot of people are like, right, Mandalorian. That was filmed on that crazy digital screen, 10-meter wall, and very expensive, using Unreal to recreate all the scenes behind you. Why the hell would you do that when you can actually do that on a green screen? There are perks to it. There's reflections, there are brightness, there is tracking, so everything feels a lot more realistic than what you see on green screens today. If you're watching Lord of the Rings right now, you'd be like, oh man, that doesn't look quite right. I don't know why, but you can't put your finger on it. It really is probably the parallax movement, the tracking itself. The fact that you can, your subtlety of your eye realizes that this is not real, this is artificial. But if you're seeing a virtual production, that gap is even closer now. You know, like it feels a lot more real. So this type of studios is only available for, I don't know, I mean like Hollywood. I mean, 5 years ago, you only can get access to all these like very specialized film lots that was working on virtual production. And here's the irony of it. If you're a filmmaker, you want to learn this process, you can't gain access to these lots because you know you need to be a very, very established filmmaker. You need to be an established 3D artist or whatsoever. So what happens to all the amateur filmmakers then? Would they even have access to these spaces? So for us, it was an important priority to actually invest in a virtual production unit so that we can actually continue working and developing ideas and also allowing our amateur filmmakers to utilize it. The process wasn't easy. I mean, it took us a long time to decide on what is the framework. So we went to Stuttgart, actually, FMX Festival in Germany, which was a great, amazing festival, where it was the first time I saw a film festival where they put the focus not on the director, but on the technical director, on the people who were behind the scenes, who were actually creating all the LED units and panels and explaining the technologies, animations and everything. And we were seeing like, oh, wow, so, okay, that's enough. You know, you don't need like a 10-meter wall, 10-meter long wall and a 5-meter. You know, you can actually crimp it down to a certain size. So in the end, we made a huge investment. It's still a huge investment, 140,000 euros around about there, to purchase our first LED wall right now. And we also relied on our, you know, informally educated crew to figure it out. You know? So for them, like, okay, we got a virtual production set, let's figure it out, guys. And figure it out, they did. I mean, basically, that's what they did. They set it up, and then they played Escape from Tarkov and sent it to Reddit, and the Escape from Tarkov guys were like, oh my god, I want to play on that screen. So that created a lot of like media, well, at least it's attention in that aspect, but when it came down to actually working on it, we started to educate both, let's see, both the traditional filmmakers itself. We educated our cultural leaders in the municipality, like this is the process, this is the future of filmmaking. And we set to work on our first actual virtual production film. In a week, we created this particular movie from scratch. All with the people who have zero experience with it and learning, like we got half the, again, based on the same concept, half the team are developers, half the team are filmmakers. And the developers themselves, they were like, okay, Unreal, okay, I can figure this out. I can create a set. And they did that. And we filmed it through a whole entire week. And this was the sum result. I'm not going to play the whole entire movie. It's a great movie. It's fun. It's 4 minutes long, but I was happy with the fact that the theory itself said that, you know, if you give it to enough to raw talents, they will find a way. They will figure it out. And when they figure it out, they will figure out a completely different approach. So from then on, it was not just filmmaking itself. I mean, right now, we've been also running lots of workshops for also actual filmmakers in the North region. And this has been really helpful for our filmmakers to actually upgrade their skill sets. This was also another project that was a film that was done in 2 days with like full-on sets and tracking. And we also broke it apart. We started to explore other avenues, not just filmmaking itself. It's a screen. So with the screen itself, can we use it in performance arts? Can we use it in theater performances? And the answer is a resounding yes, because there's so much more that you can do. One great example is the one that you see on the right on here. This was a dance performance that was also created with AI. So I'm going to show you a little clip of that, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the process after. Let me play that and see what it plays. So that was a dance performance we call Symbiosa, and that was the first time we actually started using AI to create video content. Of course, you saw that the images that were generated were kind of wonky as well. You have like heads coming out on the shoulders and everything like that. All this was done in 2 weeks, but the point was that we were learning that the audience didn't really understand what they were watching. When we played this performance for them in front of a live audience, people were like, what did I just watch? Who is that? And how is that working? And there's so many questions around that. But it was also very thought-provoking for a lot of them. And it was also for us a great way to utilize AI to get to get people curious about the process. You know, suddenly I get dancers who are like, I want to apply that. You know, it was not just for the realm of the technological geeks, but now like any artist who want to see a value in working with that. So this was important for in virtual production. It's not just the screen; it's far beyond that, and I think that there's a lot more room to explore in that potential itself. Now, the next one I'm going to go to is a thing called Norge's Beste Gamer, Norway's best gamer, and for me it was to redefine the definition of a gamer. So, how many of you are I don't know, familiar with esports? Yeah, everyone's okay, great. Esports is a very established thing, right? And esports has always been about the big games. So Counter-Strike, you have Valorant, you have League of Legends, Dota, all the established big ones. Now the thing about esports, and this is for me the painful part about esports, is that you only reach out to the 1% of the gaming audience out there, the 1% who actually love that game. And the rest of the people be like, I don't know why I'm watching, you know, like. And this is the true fact. When you might be cheering on the team, but you're like, if you're not understanding the rules of the game itself, you're not gonna get a chance to be explained the whole entire thing. So for us, like, what is the idea of a gamer? A gamer for me is someone who is unafraid, who's able to understand a system really, really quick, and who would just like jump into something without like, you know, without fear, you know, because it's fun. It's something that I can play with. So with a whole bunch of with Bjorn, who is also one of my staff members, and Jonas, who is a teacher, we founded this idea, this concept. And the concept was very simple. We started with this thing called Tromsø's Beste Gamer. And we said to everyone who wanted to join the competition, come join the competition. We're going to compete in a variety of games. What games? We're not telling you. You just come here. You're a gamer, right? You just come. You know, and they were like, what? Okay, skeptical. But, you know, with the attraction of a prize or something like that, they were like, okay, let's join in. And we gave them 5 different type of games that they have to compete in. From old school arcade classics to modern day like FPSs. And everyone was like unafraid because they were like, okay, then everyone's just gonna be bad. So then it's all good, you know? So the idea was that you just go to every station, do your best. You get like 1 minute to understand the rules from our game marshal. Our game marshal will explain the rules to you, and then play it, and then see whether you actually gain the best score. So for me, it was the idea of like, can I test the person's versatility in playing games? Can I test their openness to it? And this concept has actually grown from our little like small little like, okay, let's try to change this, to suddenly like all our partners around North Norway, they were like, hey, that was really fun what you guys did. Can we do that as well? Can we join in? And we're like, oh yeah, for sure, yeah. So in the end, we ended up like 5 different cities in the north who were joining in, and then it started getting bigger and bigger because like the people in the south, they were like, we also want to join in. Like, oh my God, yeah, now we can't call it North Norway's Best Gamer. We have to go national then. Okay, let's do it. Norway's Best Gamer. Now I can explain to you what kind of games we play, and you can see this from this clip. This is from a very famous Norwegian YouTube channel that came and competed in the Oslo qualification rounds. And this is the point in the clip where they will reveal the 5 games. And it'll be interesting to see what you guys think about the 5 games that we picked out for that year.
No Tīno melnā piekdiena turpinās. Iepērcieties ar atlaidēm labāko zīmolu precēm.
Ejam, parādīšu tev Klondike LV. Pie mums ir baigi daudz spēļu. Un varam sadarēt, ka tik daudz bonusus arī vēl neesi redzējis. Cipars vai ķerbonis? Te likmi izvēle ir lielāka. Jebkuri sporta mači pāris klikšķu attālumā. Bet, ja slinkums iet ārā no mājām, tad atceries šos 2 vārdus. Live Casino! Ienāc Klondike LV. Te ir forši.
That's the reveal of the game. The first game was... So they get themselves a little like form, and then they just have to go through every station. But the point here is that you saw the joy in everyone. They're like, I played that, you know, or they were like thinking about all these like great fond memories they have. And that for me was the thing that was missing in esports, at least the esports that I experienced today, where I don't feel the representation of myself, and I don't see the representation of my history, of so much of the culture in video games that's not, you know, that this is not representation of true gamer culture. So because of the format and because of this change in our attitudes or change in the competition format, we had to really start educating a lot of people around that. And the best way to educate that is to actually create a handbook. So for us, we started writing down this whole entire handbook. So we distribute to all the different partners who are like interested in building the same type of format. And it just explains like, how do you pick the games, how do you score the games, how do you rally people, how do you market. And now this is now being distributed nationally in Norway, and it's been great. My point also is that now we're actually moving towards another new phase. We're actually trying to build Europe's best gamers. So bearing in mind that I'm speaking to a Latvian audience, or I'm speaking to audiences from all over the Baltics, I really want to see whether there are other people who will be very, very interested in also utilizing this format, because in 2026, we're actually going to run Europe's Best Gamer. And we're going to find representations from all over. And this is from our finals. So I will just show you the little clip. This is from this year's finals. So we've been through Norway's Best Gamer twice. And in our finals, there is a difference in the format. The qualifications, you've got no idea what games you're playing. For the finals, the selected finalists from all the different cities, they're actually trained by our game marshals for 2 months. Because if you are actually going to showcase this and you're going to show this on Twitch, you're going to need to actually be quite good at the game. You can't suck at the game, you know, you got to be actually some level. And the finals is also multi-format. It's almost like a decathlon of video games. Like you're not just playing the one video game, you're playing 10 video games. And each of the 10 video games has different challenges. So 16 finalists, all from 8 different cities, 2 from every city. And they all came down to Tromsø for a whole entire weekend of gaming. This is what happened.
Even som vinner!
Det var Hyperbeamen.
Og der skinner 7,
Og Peter
6,
klarer det på
5.
5. Og så er han stønna, og det kan
Det er
være
veldig
over.
lite
Og
en.
Beklager, det var Jens og Carles som må kaste inn håndkle for i år.
dessverre.
Vi ser først at Adrian B, Kjetil og Antonio, dessverre, dere er nå blitt eliminert fra Norges beste gamer. Lykke til på neste.
Der skårer Kristoffer. Veldig bra.
Adrian, du er den Bergen-finalisten som har kommet seg lengst i konkurransen ever, men dessverre går du ikke videre. Even, du er videre til semifinalen! Er dere klare for Grand Finals? 3, 2, 1, kjør! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Og der var det over. Torkil tar første game i Grand Finals. Enda en kill på Even!
Tredje kill flekser med kastøksa.
Wow! En opp til å...
Even tar en trickshot! La oss kåre Norges beste gamer. Let's go!
Klar, ferdig, gå!
Og Torgil kaster sverdet med en gang.
Ja, Torgil kaster sverdet med blir spidda. Og Even tar en rull og en low kick. Men blir stoppet av Torkil. Blir dolka i ryggen.
Kommer de tilbake? Er det siste mulighet?
Er det siste mulighet? Er det over? Det er over! Torkil er Norges beste gamer!
But there was one girl. Yeah, bro, we want more female representation. Believe me, it's not that I don't want it. I want to have more girls coming over to the events that we run. But you know, the point here is that it was enjoyable, right? You saw that there was a lot more different variety in audience. You saw that you can actually enjoy the game experience.
I have a question.
Sure.
What age is permitted to
To join in the competition. So the youngest was 17 years old. The oldest was 45 years old, has 2 kids. Yes, yeah. Yeah. No, but the participants as well. One of the participants was a 45-year-old man. Yeah. They were like the youngest in the kids was like 17 years old, and yeah. Yeah. But audience themselves, there were lots of young kids too. A lot of them saw that they had Fortnite and Minecraft, so great. They were gonna enjoy that. But for me, my favorite image was the grandma who was like looking there, and she was like, yeah, she was like, yeah, I get this, like, yeah. So like, could Baltic Best Gamer be a thing? Like I'm open to the idea. Like for me, it's not something that it's not an IP that I want to hold on to. Norway's Best Gamer is such a concept that I want to share the love of gaming, and I want other people to also experience that. And I see that there's a lot of game culture in Latvia. I've been to around in the shops. I was like very happy to see a comic book shop, a game shop. There was a game museum here. There's a anime shop. So there are geeks here, plenty of them. Why not rally? Yeah. Ah, right, yeah. And we went to Guaxinimo. There were amazing people as well. Like I think that it's great that they're doing that. But open it up. Let the rest of the people also enjoy the experience. So for me, I have a few key takeaways using the Stoke approach as well. So I'm trying to wrap up. For me, it's important that in order for gaming culture to really thrive, or for game culture to thrive, you really need to create a stable base. This is the most important component. That's why we always have weekly events where we don't expect gamers to do anything but play games. And this is an opportunity for us to actually sit down and talk to them. So get to know them on a very, very personal level, and then hear about what is their interest, and then try to map out and like, figure out what's the process here. Building this community in safe space and having a continuity in there is super key to it. So I know there are spaces around here, but I do not know how often and how regular you guys are meeting up, but this should be the first thing that everyone should be doing. The second part is that you should embrace gaming as the core, but it's also not good that we always keep saying gamers or game development or like everything is just siloed into this small aspect. Gamers have so much more to give. There are areas in filmmaking. Right now, we're actually working with lots of crossovers in music as well, doing music videos with a lot of performers. And for me, that challenge or having the screen or utilizing, giving them a room to combine these two together is the core of like learning more about this culture here. I'm lucky to work at 3-Bit, which is a house which is full of like lots of different cultural activities. So it's easy for me to create collaboration and crossovers because I can just go upstairs or I can go find a musician and be like, hey, do you want to be part of this like project that we're doing? But it works. I mean, you can still, as a gamer yourself, you can actually consider thinking about like, okay, maybe my musician friend might want me to create something for them, like, or be part of that process. There's so much you can do. I also see a lot of value in highlighting what I call the YouTube generation. People who are learning, the intrinsic motivation versus academic qualifications. Technology moves so fast right now that whatever you're learning in school might actually be a little bit slower than what you're learning on YouTube. So, and the ones who are really like the ones who are extremely talented people are the ones who are constantly updating themselves, not waiting for school to give them a curriculum, but going on YouTube and finding out themselves. So for me, that's my guideline. If I speak to someone who is talented or fresh young talent, I always ask them like, how do you keep yourself updated? What do you guys do? How do you learn? And if they tell me like, oh yeah, I'm always constantly picking up my YouTube, I'm doing something, then I know that they have the intrinsic motivation rather than, I'm doing it just because I'm making my parents happy that I'm going to school. You know what I mean? And set your ambitions, find the funding. There is a lot of funding available in gaming or game culture. There's so much in technology itself, but defining what you want to do, like having a space and saying that collaboration and crossovers is the area we want to approach, is I think underutilized. A lot of people are just focusing on gaming or games itself, but how we can actually cross-cultural breakdowns, and also being a bit more neutral. So that's why there's the reason why I call our department creative technology rather than creative gaming. You know, so having a neutralized idea of that. Yeah, I'm open for questions right now. Otherwise, I'm wrapping up because it's late, and I guess everyone is also happy to continue working on their projects. I hope that inspires some people. I hope it inspires some people to come to Tromsø also and experience us in the flesh, and also apply some of these things that you've seen in potentially cultural pursuits or even business ideas. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
At least now I see light here. Might be a cliche question, but do you have to fight prejudice or like any mistrust or like
Tons, of course. I mean, it's something that I've experienced all my life, right? So, like I said, when I was in university in film school, they were saying like video games, please, you guys are nothing, like you guys are juvenile. Considering the fact that video games now has overtaken the whole entire movie industry by a factor of 3, right? So, part of the process is education. A part of the process is going to the stakeholders, going to the mayor, going to the cultural director, etc., and saying to them, look, guys, this is what these guys can do. And giving them an impression that's not just like the gamer who's just sitting at home and on the console and just playing. That's why it's so important to have application of this technology into cultural projects that's not just games. Because these are the areas where they actually sitting on, or these are the areas where they enjoy like watching a dance performance or seeing a theater performance. But when they realize that, oh, you mean you have a developer who was doing that? There was someone who was doing the 3D images and someone doing the AI processing for that? That really blows their mind. And then we tell them like, yeah, they're high school, they haven't even graduated high school. And they're like, what? And so now the process is being in place in Norway, where in Norway we have there's this thing called NAV, which is a socialized work placement. They are trying to get lots of people. I've taken a lot of people, interns, who have established skill sets but have no education, and I get them to work on projects with me. Because for them, once they have the portfolio, they're gonna fly, and they're gonna be hireable anywhere. So yeah. Ins.
Thank you very much. I have a question, and actually, this is coming out from the real case study, not the case study from the real case situation. The same this event. We will start preparing it. We make some advertisement. We made not a rollout. We made a one pager, and in this one pager, we wrote that we are going to have the hackathon, STARRISE, and that there will be a contest, and the teams will compete for the prize, and there is a prize money. And we were putting it in the LinkedIn, and we were trying to boost that post,
right,
to inform all. And now the question to you: did we manage to boost it or not?
Right, on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Ooh, it depends on. Okay, I guess I'm putting on my startup hat, and LinkedIn is a great place to do it. Although LinkedIn is a place where I do not read any of the content. I just wait notifications for people who try and connect with me. Normally, I don't read the feeds in LinkedIn because a lot of it's AI generated. A lot of it is just like everyone's like humble bragging something. It's worse than Facebook, right? So it depends on who you wanted to attract. If you wanted to attract gamers, if you want to attract the creative type of like gamers, they're not gonna respond to that. But if you were to let's say transform it with like the idea of like using the game Overcooked and saying like food logistics, can we figure this out? And creating a crazy, funny, viral YouTube short clip. And having a like sign up for this thing, that could work for me if you were talking to that audience. So
Very good point of view. You had a very strong logics behind this one. And my answer will be we did not manage to boost the post because LinkedIn blocked it.
ah, right.
And they blocked it with just, it was automatical checking and it was blocked because it is a gambling.
Huh?
Yes, I had the same reaction. What gambling?
Yeah.
Gambling. They blocked it because it is gambling.
Because the word gaming.
No, no.
Okay.
That will be the sad point in my story. Then I was, what gambling? I resend again that there is no gambling at all. So
Yeah.
please review this post
Yeah.
and publish it for boosting. I got reply. It is gambling. And if you will write it one more time, we will block your account totally.
Ah.
Then, of course, I found the help desk. I start the chat. Why it is blocked? It is gambling. Why it is gambling?
Because it's a price.
Exactly.
Ah.
Because it is a price. And I am saying, but in all your rules, what is now publicly available, to what you are referring, this is not said that contest is a gambling. And they said, yeah, it is not written, but still it's a gambling.
Yep.
And now maybe the question is, we are speaking about the gamers, about the game devs also.
Mm.
The society understands them as a gamblers.
Ah, right.
And now maybe the question is that we have to speak to change the mind of society. And this mind of the society, it doesn't mean that we will change the mothers, fathers at home.
No.
We have to educate the authorities, the public authorities.
That's right.
Because a lot of politicians are using this gambling, gaming, as
Addiction.
it's
Yeah.
it's very bad.
Yep.
Because it politically sounds very nice.
Yep.
And they don't have exact what to offer to society. Then let's fight with something. And then, okay, gaming is bad, but maybe we have to change the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we have to educate the people. The same is with AI. AI, it's very bad. ChatGPT, it's very bad, super bad. We have to exclude it because this is a new Starlink that will overtake the world and we will all lose the world. But maybe we have to educate the people, society, to use this ChatGPT the same, not for generating the report for school,
That's right.
but use them as mechanical secretaries.
Exactly.
When you write in ideas, when you write your ideas, and then this ChatGPT will write in nice wordings, in 9 sentences, we will count the words, whatever.
Yep.
The question is, maybe we have to change the society first of all.
We definitely have to, and it's a long slog. I mean, like I've been doing this for 6 years. I've built a team of specialists, and it took me a long time to find them. It took me from nothing, right? Like all of us just came down to Tweebit, and we all brought our own consoles. Someone brought their own Commodore 64. Like everything was just contributed by the community itself, and that made it very real place first, because it's no hidden agenda. We're just doing it out of love, our passion of it. So, but from then on, we start like realizing, okay, the potential of the people that we have, and we start like finding a real focus on like, okay, how do we educate people? How do we change the mindset? How do we make people think that gamers are more than just gamers? And it was a strategy on our part to work with film, work with music, work with performance arts, because it allowed us to actually say, look, we're not that dangerous. We're actually useful in society. We're actually useful to your production. And it requires quite a lot of lobbying as well. I think that one of the interesting things, I went to enjoy the game. There's this shop in Latvia. On the second floor, there was like a museum of, they had a museum of retro consoles up there. And I went upstairs, I spoke to the guy at the store, and it was just like telling me like, okay, explain to me Latvian gaming scenes or geek culture. And he's like, okay, he said like, you can go upstairs for free. If not, I have to pay €5 to go to the museum. So I ended up going upstairs, and there were like a bunch of like, there was a couple who were playing Mortal Kombat, because it's like a couple, a man and a woman, and they're in their 20s playing that. There was a mother and her young son playing video games in the corner there, playing an arcade, probably because she remembers that this is what I grew up with. we need to appeal to all these memories. You know, we were all, a lot of the politicians who are now in their 40s or 50s were young ones. They had Atari 2600, they had Super Nintendo. They knew themselves that the feeling that they had when they're playing a video game, and we have to find a way to attract them to come back to. Don't just like see this like gaming addiction story or like all this like. Surely there are cases of that too, but there's so much more positivity as well. So it's a PR push. It requires effort. It requires concentrated effort, but it requires there's so many skill sets here. There's so many people who like look at your team of like filmmakers who are live streaming this. They can go around and like capture all this and like show that and say like Latvia is actually a growing community of like positive influence in games, and it actually can go better. So I think that's an important step, but it requires effort, and it requires like a strategic focus. And it's good to tie in with cultural institutions. That's why I'm saying also the cultural institutions should see this and like say like if we have like we can actually create 3D backgrounds for you. We can actually create models of we give them examples of like how things can actually be done, and they will be a lot more more open to it, I think. Hopefully you will find a politician who is a champion. Maybe eventually they will be, because I think eventually they will be. There's always someone who's ends up like the secret gamer, like he in Norway there was a very funny, like, the prime minister, she was caught on like in parliament playing Candy Crush. Was it? Yeah, she was like, yeah. So she was caught in, and then they were like, oh my god, she's playing Candy Crush, and she's like, oh shit, yeah, and then you're like, I was like, I'm just like using it to while away my time, but then she also like defended it by saying like, it's fun, it's great, it's not like it's super. This was a period where during recess or whatsoever, I can play games. That's what I do. That's what normal people do, and then people like, oh yeah, you're right. If politicians can play video games, everyone can, right? So guaranteed there is someone out on there. We just got to get that person, that champion to on your side.
Can you switch the mic? There definitely is politicians who are playing the games, and maybe not the one, maybe even more.
Yep.
But the question is, are they enough? Do they have enough courage to tell it or not?
Then you tell them that the market is so big, and that there is so much. All these gamers are now being applied to filmmaking, being applied to so many other areas of culture, that if you ignore that, you are actually going to fall behind. And that's something that all politicians will probably be afraid of. They'll be like, oh shit, yeah, we have to maintain the progression. One interesting fact: Elon Musk is the #1 Diablo 4 player in the world. How does he have time to do that? Obviously you have time. It's your own leisure time. Whatever you want to do with your own leisure, your call. As long as you can fulfill all the rest of your other requirements. But it's interesting, right? You start and see all these like examples of like old people who like me. Like, I'm 48 years old. I'm not young anymore. I still play video games. I'm very happy and proud saying that I play games. I love games. Yeah. So we just gotta make sure that we don't judge people and get rid of all the. It's great to do gaming addiction stories. Newspapers like to do that, rely on that, because negative stories sell content, or they sell. It's much easier to sell bad news rather than good positive news. So, but the effort has to be put on a concentrated level, and there's opportunity here in Latvia where there's so many interesting communities, but they just need to kind of like cluster somewhere. Yeah, so I'm hoping that there is some sort of like project funding that could do that, or a university approach that could actually a festival that focuses on culture, exploration of that, rather than just like make video games or game jams or hack. Those are great too. Don't get me wrong, but be more open and versatile. Yeah. Right.
Do we have other comments? No? Okay, pretty much we can say thank you. It was really very interesting. And now I think for today we have finished all on-site video show and also master classes and inspiring speeches. So the teams are working. The ones who have not joined are joining the teams. And we will meet tomorrow. See you tomorrow.